Good morning, councillors, and all the other ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us at this council meeting. I wish to extend a particular welcome to the Honourable Executive Mayor, Alderman Leon van Wyk, the Honourable Deputy Executive Mayor, Councillor Clark, the Chief Whip, Councillor Barnard, and then Alderman Williams, Van der Hoofen, Giereke, and Kritzinger, as well as Alderman Tiyizi, opposition leaders, fellow councillors, the acting municipal manager, Dr. Michelle Gratz, directors and acting directors and senior staff managers, members. I also would like to extend a welcome to a new councillor, Councillor Browen Johnson, as a new member to council. Welcome, councillor, and we look forward to your contribution to the activities in council and also in George municipality. I would like to ask Councillor Melvin Roofse to open with prayer for us. Councillor Roofse.
Good morning, everybody. Let's bow our heads. Thank you, Harry. Father God, this morning we come into your presence, Father, in the name of Jesus. Lord, we thank you, Father, that you are the Alpha and the Omega. Lord, your word says, Father God, in Romans 8, verse 28, that you work all things, Father, together for the good of those who love you and who do according to your will and your purpose. Therefore, Father God, we ask this morning that you will bless this meeting here this morning. We ask that you will bless every person, every discussion, Father God, as this is for our communities, Father. We also pray this morning for every family member that have lost somebody to COVID, Father God, or to any other illnesses. We also pray, Father God, for the Simon family this morning, Father, that has their memorial service this morning. We ask that you will comfort them, that you will counsel them, and that you will fill them with your peace as well, Father. Also for Harry this morning, that will be also conducting this meeting this morning, and every speaker, Father, we pray for your peace, and we pray also, Father God, that you will direct us, oh God. Bless this meeting and everything that will be done in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Councillor Roofse. Much appreciated.
On a point of order, Speaker.
Yes, I don't see a hand. Sorry, who's speaking?
Speaker.
Good morning.
Ndineminyaka mine ndikosihlanu ngoku ndilapha ndikathandaza. Kodwa abantu abafike izolo sebethandaza. Luyeke lo bandlulo lubhizi ngalo, Speaker, please.
Order, please. Order, please. Order, please.
The order is out of
Order,
order.
please. Order, please. Councillors, I really hope that we can conduct our business in a professional manner today, and that we act in a manner worthy of the people of George and those we claim to represent. We have lost, a number of people have lost their lives since our last meeting. We commiserate with them and we extend our condolences to them, as also pointed out by Councillor Roofse in his opening prayer. And therefore I would like to ask that we have a moment of silence. Thank you. I extend felicitations to those who enjoyed their birthdays since our last meeting. May you be blessed and may you continue to be on the side of everything that is good in our lives. We will move now to item 2 on the agenda, which is the mayoral address. And I hand then over to Mayor van Wyk, Alderman van Wyk, to proceed with the mayoral address. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you,
Mr.
Speaker. Good morning.
Order, please.
I proceed.
One moment, please, Alderman van Wyk. I don't see any hands. Alderman Giereke.
Yeah, sorry, apology for not raising my hand, Speaker. If you allow me, I just want to submit a request to you. If you, or must I wait until it comes to your item?
Please do. Thank you. Please do. Thank you. Thank you for that. We will handle your request when it is the right time. I'm going to ask the Alderman to please proceed. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Speaker. Good morning, Speaker, Aldermen, councillors, acting municipal manager, directors, officials, members of the media, and anyone other members of the public possibly on this platform. It is an honour to address you today. February is the month in which we address our adjustments budget and cast our mind to the draft budget for the 21-22 financial year. It is useful, therefore, to shortly review our economic circumstances and that of infrastructure and of services. At the beginning of the month, it was a relief to all of us when the lockdown restrictions that were imposed over our critically important holiday season were brought to an end. This meant that businesses, particularly in the tourism sector, could resume more normal operations for the benefit also of those employed in the sector. The regional economy has been badly affected this past year, which is of enormous concern to us. From my interactions with the business sector, it is evident that across the range from SMMEs through to larger stores that they experienced declines in turnover during December from anything in the range of 10 to 20% all the way up through to 50%, which was the experience of many of the SMMEs. This is worrying because we recognize the importance of the December-January holiday trade and the impact that has and the importance it has on the rest of the calendar year for these businesses. With regard to George's own finances, our debtors book has increased from 240 million in January 2020 to 320 million in January 2021, an increase of 80 million rand, or 33%. We note a virtual doubling in the aged analysis for each period outstanding. For example, over 30 to 60 days, 60 to 90 days, 90 to 120. In each of those categories, as we move through to 180 days and beyond, and even to a year, we see this increase taking place and, as I mentioned, the virtual doubling. In addition to the reduction in the debtors collection rate from a very satisfactory 96% that we previously attained to the present average of 92%, the average billings per month in relation to budgeted expectation has also declined, although thankfully this gap now appears to be reducing. We are having to make additional provisions in our financial statements for the possible irrecoverability of these debtors. In turn, this impacts on our cash. We once again appeal to our customers, whether they are individuals or businesses, to make contact with the accounts department to discuss any difficulties that they may be experiencing in making payments and keeping up with payments, because it is clear that there is a wide sector of our customer base that is experiencing difficulties. Each of the applications for relief or assistance will be assessed on their merits. In our adjustments budget, we have implemented immediate cuts to expenditure in such a way to prevent impacts on service delivery while continuing to remain watchful for the rest of the financial year. We're certainly going to have to monitor our situation very carefully in the coming months. During February, the Municipal Manager, Dr. Gratz, has continued to lead the review of our internal operations, constantly searching for improvements to become more efficient. A professional engineer has been appointed on a temporary basis to project manage capital expenditure on bulk infrastructure. This is a very critical appointment that has taken place, and we are grateful that this engineer, Mr. De Swart, is in position to fulfill this task. Discussions that have already been held in respect that have been held in respect of the municipal infrastructure grant have been quite successful, and a way forward has been determined, as will be discussed later during this meeting. For a number of years now, it has been evident that George would need to tackle the refurbishment of aging existing infrastructure. This is one of the biggest challenges in local government, not only in South Africa, but internationally as well. The challenge for George is exacerbated by the growth in new housing and the overall economy, requiring additional infrastructure. We therefore face twin challenges of having to refurbish existing infrastructure as well as expand infrastructure, particularly in respect of water and wastewater. And this is, it's almost a simultaneous problem that we are sitting with, and we need to meet this challenge. And I want to try and provide some perspective as to the enormity and complexity of the issues that we are facing. At present, George uses 30 megalitres of water per day on average. The present expansion programs at the waterworks entail additional work at the size of 20 megalitres and at the wastewater treatment works of 10 megalitres. So if you place that in perspective, the expansion that we're doing on the water side is equivalent to 2/3 of what our daily water consumption is. And at the wastewater treatment works, it is 1/3. The capital expenditure programs presently in the medium-term revenue expenditure framework, or otherwise known as the MTREF, are approximately 1 billion rand that we have on our books to be undertaken over the next 3 years. Our present entire infrastructure on our financial statements amounts to approximately 3 billion. So therefore, the work that we are now undertaking is the equivalent of 1/3 of what we are currently carrying in terms of the asset base of this municipality, the fixed asset infrastructure base. These figures should provide council with some idea of the order size of the undertakings being dealt with at present. The projects on the table for funding in the forthcoming budget are therefore significant, and we're going to require some very astute management and some very brave calls that need to be made in the coming months. When you undertake projects of this nature, your budget has to be tailored to absorb them in terms of funding sources, from grants, from own funds, and from external funding. And you need to ensure that you've got adequate generation of internal cash flow. You also need to look at the affordability of tariffs for your customers. And simultaneously, we also need to keep on growing the economy, because it's only with a growing economy and additional customers that we are ultimately going to be able to afford and to pay for the infrastructure that we need to put in place within this municipality. In addition to these projects, we need to undertake refurbishment of key sewage pump stations within the 150 plus pump station fleet that is operated by the municipality. The MM has therefore been spending much time in dealing with the shortcomings and managerial issues that are prerequisites to undertake the capital expenditure projects that I briefly described. Thank you, Dr. Gratz, for your tireless efforts to get to grips with the enormity of this massive project. If we turn to service delivery, we look forward to next week when the new contractor dealing with the blue and green bags will commence operations in tandem with a regular normal black bag refuse collection service. Acting Director Mr. Alan Polzer has systematically worked through all the aspects comprising this service to ensure that we restore this very visible, essential service to the expected standards of service delivery. Over the past month, various inadequacies in refuse collection have progressively been ironed out. We apologize for the difficulties that residents have experienced and thank them for their patience so far, as well as the patience that they're going to need in the coming weeks during the transition to the new tenderer and the new provider. The maintaining of service delivery standards is of crucial importance. The management of faults and complaints from the reporting stage thereof through to the clearing them from the system to make sure that they have been done and that they are completed within acceptable time limits is receiving attention. The MM has introduced a monitoring system to ensure there is accountability. For such a system to work effectively, it is essential that faults receive a reference number when the complaint is lodged. Our Media and Communications Department has already publicized the use of the George mobile phone app, where faults can be logged within seconds. We therefore encourage all of our citizens to become active citizens and to use these devices to report faults. In recent times, I have noticed social media groups where citizens spread rumors and photos about so-called faults, and they quite openly mention that they are members of political parties, and then they don't bother to actually report these faults. And we've got councillors from these political parties both sit on our council and are members of these social groups. And given the challenges that we face in terms of COVID-19, the work that is required in economic recovery to retain jobs and to assist the vulnerable, I really do not believe that the negativity that has been spread about the city in which we live is actually adds any value. And this has been fueled by these individuals who seem to take great pleasure in being negative about our city. And there is reason to believe that this negative narrative is being fueled by persons who hold office as councillors within our council. This runs counter to the spirit of those citizens in George who daily strive for a better life here and wish to contribute to the improving of our city. I've also been informed by the administration that they are preparing plans for the rollout of additional programs to sharpen up the cleanliness and appearance of George. It is appreciated that our management team has recognized the importance of the high standard of service delivery that our citizens expect. The administration has requested and received permission to utilize an amount of 3 million to be allocated out of the savings that have been made within the adjustments budget. So this program is currently being prepared and planned and is due to be discussed and then rolled out in the coming weeks. As the second wave of COVID-19 has abated, adaptations to the use of face-to-face service delivery has taken place, which means that some actions and areas within that the public involve the public is now being opened up once again, and therefore that type of public access will become available once more. We do, however, need to bear in mind that even though the number of positive cases have declined within George, and I heard during the week that we were around about the mid-100s positive cases at this stage, constant vigilance is needed. If I turn to land invasions, after numerous postponements by the court, the municipality was informed a few days ago of another extension of 1 week that has been granted to the illegal land occupiers in the Toesranton area for them to make representation to the court as to reasons why the eviction order should not be granted. The occupations are of major concern to homeowners, particularly within that Toesranton area, who believe that their lives and property are being negatively impacted, with the municipality that bears the blame for their discomfort, even though the courts are determining the matter. Voelklip. Over the past weekend, another tragic incident took place at Voelklip. At last month's council meeting, I reported that a task team had been formed to address the various concerns. Requests and proposals have been made to the Provincial Roads Department to permit the use of rocks, to close off a parking area, and to erect safety barriers. While permission is being waited, the rocks have already been put in place in the parking area that has been used as the start-off point for these incidents. The municipality has received support from private initiatives who are prepared to sponsor measures to improve safety. These gestures are much appreciated. Even though we have no legislative role or jurisdiction over the matter, we wish to prevent any further incidents as far as possible and will take the leading role in coordinating the activities of the task team that is in place. We extend our deepest sympathies to the family and families of the bereaved. Lastly, we have extended our support to cancer in their annual Cancer Relay fundraising effort. This event will now take place virtually, with citizens encouraged to buy their entry ticket and then to complete their walk, run, cycle, or other activity during the duration of the event, which will be open from the 5th to the 15th of March. In other words, from next Friday through to the following Monday. We want to challenge all suburbs, retirement villages, gated suburbs, businesses, schools, clubs, etc., to get their members to sign up and to participate in some exercise in our lovely fresh air. This challenge also goes out to each department within the municipality, and I'm sure that the municipality will step forth and place a few hundred names on this list to be able to assist cancer in the excellent work that they do. We need to support them, and this is a very important fundraising event for them. In closing, I wish to extend a word of thanks to all our officials for their dedication in dealing with our many challenges. We need to remember to remain safe and to observe COVID-19 protocols at all times. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mayor. Before we proceed, I neglected to welcome Dr. Adele Potgieter, the chairperson of the Audit Committee. Welcome, Dr. Potgieter. We'll then proceed with the replies to the mayoral address. The first to respond there is the ANC. I didn't get a name, but you have 3 minutes.
Good morning, colleagues. Thank you, Speaker. First, I'd like to congratulate the class of 2020. They made us proud against all odds, and big up to the teachers for their dedication through this difficult time. Mr. Mayor, you talk about aging infrastructure, but I think it means in town, because that is where you are focusing and where the bulk work is happening. The engineer that you employed now and boasting about in this Mr. Swart that you are boasting about here is to manage your white company's income, because civil engineering have been your exclusive white company's milking cow. And that is why you want to get rid of Mr. Veso. I thought, Mr. Mayor, you will declare to this council how much money have you saved by taking the free units from the poor people given by the national government in any case. But you did not say anything about that. And you are saying that the DA is pro-poor. The DA was never pro-poor, and the DA will never be pro-poor. This one, it also confirms to us now, who are you really looking after? Mr. Mayor, you're talking about business growth in George, but you are the same person who's shown a backhand to a company that you met with. You met with this company last year. You met with a company that wanted to invest in extending the George Airport, giving it international status, which would have brought much business in this town, and also much investment also in George. but because it does not serve your interest, or you are not to benefit from it, you've shown a backhand to that. Let me tell you this, Mr. Mayor, I am very much, no, I can't say I'm disappointed, because before you came in, I also said, bringing a white mayor to George, that will be a sad day for the Georgians. I said that in the newspaper, you can go and check. I said that in the newspaper, it will be a sad day in George, because the only interest you will be looking at is white interest. And now you are proving us right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let me thank you for proving us right, because everything that you do and every time you are doing things, it shows us that you really don't care about Black people. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Speaker, for your time.
Thank you, Councillor Jantjies Koosman. Next to speak on this or to reply to the mayoral address is the PVI. Alderman Giereke, you have 3 minutes.
Yes, Speaker, this is actually a very disturbing speech of the Executive Mayor this morning, in the sense of he's only targeted certain issues that he wants to address, and he forgets or forsake some of the most critical important issues, i.e. your electricity department and the failure in that department. Each time we get messages how there's interruption in Wilderness, in Tembeletu, and all over, power failures because of the problems at the electricity department. Having said that, this is for the attention of the municipal manager. There's a lot of problems in that electricity department, targeting of individuals, victimization of individuals. And this is why services cannot be delivered. And there's also an onslaught. I've dealt with some people on some female staff and electricians in their department. I just leave it like that. If you want further information, I will supply it to you or provide it to you. Mr. Mayor, I'm jumping right down to the bottom of your speech. You were talking about the negative narrative on social media about the municipality. It is rather strange that in your previous administration, when colored people were at the helm of that administration, you did not complain about the social media activity. You are now you are using your official platform to target individuals and their rights to free speech, to exercise their right of free speech within responsible manners on social media, and express criticism with regards to weak service delivery from the municipality. And if you refer in any way to Voorklip, for instance, yes, I have written on social media about Voorklip, and I have stated that week after or month after month, we've learned about interventions at Voorklip, and nothing has been done there until we've seen another 2 deaths of 75-year-old ladies recently. It's a shame on this municipality. It's a shame on this government that nothing has been done while people are dying under our noses. And we govern the city by virtue of media statements in our local newspapers, and nothing is being done. So yes, you will not stifle us. We will speak. We will stand up. We lead political parties. We have the right. Our constitutional democracy makes provision for that. And you have to stand the test of scrutiny. That's all that you need to do. You come here and use this platform to come and moan and groan about criticism. You are in government, and the same you do to the African National Congress on the national level, the same we will do to you. This is to hold you to account to service delivery. And then in terms of the electricity, again, you issue a statement to say that you are inviting individuals and businesses to come and to say that they must make arrangements for their debt and so on. Let me just tell you, Mr. Speaker, individuals are coming in and out the municipality, even businesses. They make arrangements, and still their electricity is suspended. And nobody can declare why this is done.
Order, please. Alderman?
Yes?
Your time has passed.
Can I just finish this point, if you allow me, please?
I'll give you 10 seconds, Alderman.
Oh gosh, I val amper van die stoel af. You are inviting people, but the electricity bills are suspended, or the use of electricity is suspended. And the lawyer of this council that you've appointed, his bill is just increasing. You've just paid him 326,000 rand for the month for work to suspend and hand over accounts. This is a disgrace on this municipality, and we need urgent intervention in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you. Next to speak, Ikoza has apologized. Next to speak on this item is the EFF. Councillor Kama, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Speaker. Firstly, we would also like to welcome the 2020 metric results and congratulate all matriculants who were successful in their examinations in difficult and a destructive year. EFF also encourages those who did not make it to not to be discouraged, as they waged a war against education at the time when the virus was waging a war against our humanity. Regarding to your mayoral address, your speech, Mayor, was based on the adjustment budget that will be discussed today, and we will share our disappointments when we deal with that item. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kama. Next to speak is Good. I'm not sure that Councillor Hector is with us. We will then move on to the ICDP. Councillor De Tooy, you have 3 minutes.
Baie dankie, Speaker. Ek wil ons burgemeester van dankie sê vir 'n baie breedvoerige verslag wat hy vir ons vandag gelewer het. Maar Speaker, die vraag deur u aan die burgemeester is, wat gaan ons as raad doen om die toestand waarin COVID-19 ons mense van George gedwing het te help? Ons het alreeds 'n probleem, so ons sien ons uitstaande skulde is besig om op te gaan. Daar is verhogings wat gaan kom onvermydelik. En dit is die armstes van die armes wat hieronder gaan ly. En dis maklik om te kritiseer, maar soms moet ons ook buite die boks dink en kyk of daar nie oplossing is wat ons na kan kyk om dinge om te draai nie. En dit is waar die ACDP nou wil vra, is dit nie miskien tyd dat ons weer na ons kapitale bydrae gaan kyk om dit moontlik te probeer verlaag nie. Dis 'n vraag wat ek vra, sodat daar nuwe ontwikkelinge kan plaasvind. Nuwe ontwikkelinge beteken dit is werkskepping vir mense wat nie werk tans het nie. Dit beteken daar gaan kos op die tafel van soveel huisgesinne kom. Is dit nie miskien moontlik nodig dat ons ernstig na hierdie goed gaan kyk nie, burgemeester, om te kyk of daar iets is wat ons hiermee kan doen? Jy het ook gepraat van sosiale media. Nou, dit is 'n feit, as daar valse berigte plaasvind en 'n leuen word lank genoeg herhaal, dan word dit naderhand aanvaar as 'n waarheid. Maar valse berigte is 'n ontsaglike groot probleem. En dis nie altyd moontlik om die waarheid van die valsheid te onderskei nie, as jy nie daarop gaan navorsing doen nie. So, dis 'n groot probleem en ek weet nie hoe ons dit gaan hanteer nie, of hoe ons dit kan omkeer nie. En dan ook voelkle wat u genoem het, burgemeester. Die ACDP is bly om te verneem dat hulle vorige vergadering het ons gevra of dit nie moontlik is dat daar groot rotsle op strategiese plekke geplaas kan word om dit moeiliker te maak nie. En ek het in die toespraak het ek nou verneem dat dit wel gedoen is en ek sê vir u en die amptenare wat daarmee gemoeid was, baie dankie. Dit is om verder tragedies te probeer verhoed. Dis nie dat ons alle tragedies gaan verhoed nie, maar ons doen iets om dit te probeer verhoed. En ek wil vir u sê, burgemeester en speaker en die raad, as ACDP ons vir julle en die Here gaan ons help om hierdie probleme op te los. Baie dankie.
Thank you, Councillor De Tooy. Mr. Paulus, can you please translate?
The ACDP ifuna yona ukwenza nje umbulelo kakhulu kusodolophu ngengxelo entle kangaka athe wasinikezela yona, ecacileyo futhi nevakalayo. Uthi ke umbuzo kodwa endinawo kuwe sodolophu, ingaba thina silibhunga siza kwenza njani na ukukhawulelana nemeko yabantu abathe bachaphazeleka kule COVID, abazibona besematyaleni, abazibona behluphekile, futhi enye into funeka ijongiwe ngamatyala abantu ayanyuka kakhulu, ingakumbi amatyala alapha kwamasipala, futhi ke abantu abangathathi ntweni. Ndicela ukubuza ke mna ke ngaba siza kwenza ntoni na? Ndifuna uqonda ayilothuba nangoku ekunokuthi kuthathwe phaa kwi-capital budget yethu, apho ke kuzawuthi kwenziwe khona iiprojekthi ezintsha ezizawukuthi zizise mhlawumbi isisombululo zokuthi zivulele amathuba omsebenzi kubantu abangasebenziyo nakubantu abathe baphulukana nemisebenzi yabo ngeli xesha libi esithe sajongana nalo. Futhi ke uchaphazele umba we-social media, futhi neentetho ezingeyonyani eziye zithethwe kwi-social media, abantu abaye bazithathe ngokuthi ziyinyani, futhi ke nekungekho lula ukuthi maziphinde zilungiswe ekuhlaleni ngoba abantu sebenengqondo ethi yinyaniso yonke loo nto bayivayo okanye into abathi bayifunde. Yingxaki kakhulu enkulu esihleli nayo futhi esingayaziyo ukuba izawuthi kujongwe njani na okanye kukhawulelwane njani na nayo. Uthi ke siyabulela kakhulu thina siyi-ACDP ngoba ndiyabona isicelo sethu besiye sasicela kwintlanganiso ngaphambili, ndiyabona sithe senziwa. Ndiyabulela ke kakhulu ukwazi ukubana zikhona izinto ezithi sizicele thina silibhunga okanye thina singulo mbutho zithi zenziwe. Ndiyabulela kakhulu futhi ke ndifuna ukuthi kuwe sodolophu nawe somlomo nakuni nonke boceba ubana ukuba siyabambisana sizawukwazi ukusebenzisana kakuhle kwaye uThixo uza kusinceda. Enkosi.
Thank you, Mr. Paulus. I see Councillor Buys's hand is up. Councillor Buys. Councillor Buys.
Speaker.
Good morning.
Goeiemôre Speaker. Ek wil net verskoning vra omdat ek nou eers ingelog het. Die op die plaas is die internet is baie swak raak.
Thank you. Noted, Councillor Buys. Thanks for letting us know and welcome to the meeting. We'll be doing the roll call a little later, but thank you for letting me know.
Thank you, Speaker.
Before we move on to the next speaker in reply, I just also wish to remind you that the proceedings of this meeting are being live streamed in time or real time on YouTube. So that's for your information. The next to speak is the AIC. Councillor Joe has advised me that he's battling to sign in. IT is working on it. So we will proceed to the Freedom Front Plus in the meantime until Councillor Joe Mkondu has joined us. Otherwise, we'll proceed. Next to speak is the Freedom Front Plus. Councillor van Niekerk, you have 3 minutes.
Dankie Speaker, aan die burgemeester deur u. Die Vryheidsfront neem kennis van die ekonomiese situasie soos jy dit uitgespel het. En ons is op rekord, ons in die verlede gesê, toerisme, sowel as ontwikkeling, is seker die mees kardinale bronne van inkomste vir die George en die groter George area. En kennis word dus geneem van die afwaartse kurwe in kontantvloei en ook die groei van skulde. Maar wanneer die burgemeester gepaard gaan hiermee is dan ook die uitdagings wat die munisipaliteit in die gesig staar. En wat ons ook al in die verlede aangespreek het en wat u vanmôre opgehaal het, naamlik die behoorlike bestuur van verouderde infrastruktuur. En dit word nie net beperk tot rioolstelsels nie. Ons het dit gesê met die waterpype wat tydig en ontydig bars en wat wil voorkom asof dit net op daardie stadium op 'n lap en stop plan was en nie 'n behoorlike onderhoudsplan daarvoor nie. Dit eindig nie daar nie. Ons kyk na ons paaie in reg oor George wat besig is om stelselmatig te disintegreer. Ek is nie beperk daartoe nie, maar ons kyk na byvoorbeeld Mimosa Straat hier in wijk 18 wat ek al herhaaldelike kere gerapporteer het, dat die toestand van daai pad het so agteruit gegaan dat jy hom nou heeltemal sal omtrent moet vervang en nie meer net kan herstel nie. En elke keer is dit maar net weens begrotingstekorte en so aan, maar hierdie uitdagings gaan net verder eskaleer en ons sal met wysheid en insig dit moet bestuur. Ons het vanoggend weer onluste gesien in Pakkelsdorp. En met heel tereg, of 'n mens nou waar jy ook al woon, dit is hartseer om te hoor op media dat plus minus 70 gesinne met 3 toilette moet klaarkom. Dit gee rede tot sulke betogings en dit moet aangespreek word en dit gaan ook nog verder geld kos. Daarom is die Vryheidsfront dan ook ten gunste dat addisionele befondsingsbronne geëksploreer moet word en dat ons moet kyk of ons nie op daardie manier hierdie voortdurende probleemsituasies kan aanspreek nie. Een van die persone het my sopas geskakel en gesê daar is nou op sy huis geskiet. Nou moet ons werklik so ver gaan om met mense net vra vir 'n ekstra toilet. Byvoorbeeld, daar is ander vrae ook, maar ons kan dit aanspreek en dit sal moet aangespreek word want dit gaan nie eindig nie. Ons as raadslede hier, meneer die burgemeester, is nie net daar om kritiek op u administrasie te lewer nie, maar ons vra en ons versoek dat wanneer ons met konstruktiewe oplossings na vore kom, dat julle sal luister en ons sal ernstig opneem. Dankie meneer die Spreker.
Thank you, Councillor van die Kerk. Ms. Apollos, please translate.
Kusodolophu ndiyabulela kakhulu ngentetho yakho ecacileyo othe wayinikezela, futhi ke ndiyayazi malunga nemeko yezoqoqosho othe wayichaphazela ingxaki kakhulu, futhi nathi siyayazi malunga ne-business opportunities namashishini angakwaziyo ukuqhuba ngenxa yemeko yezoqoqosho esijongene nayo apha eGeorge, ingakumbi ke nokwanda kwamatyala abantu ngenxa yemeko ebesithe sajongana nazo. Uthi ke sine-challenges ezininzi ekuzawufuneka size zame indlela okanye senze amacebo sizokuthi sikhawulelane nazo. Uthi ke zininzi kakhulu ingxaki okanye imicelimngeni esijongene nayo enjenge-infrastructure, iindlela zethu. Uthi ke ugqabhuka koopayipi bamanzi ekungekho sisombululo ngoba bahleli nje bayagqabhuka oopayipi. Uchaphazele ke indlela ekuthiwa yiMemusa Street. Uthi ke uyiripote amatyeli amanintsi ke le ndlela imbi kwaye ke ayihambeki, futhi ke kudala ke eripota apha kwamasipala. Uthi ke ezi challenges noko kufuneka kube khona ubulumko xa sizothi sihleli phantsi silibhunga kuziswe izisombululo. Uthi ke sibonile nakusasa okanye sivile kusasa into ibiqhubeka ePakasdorp, abantu benza uqhankqalazo. Uthi kubuhlungu kakhulu ukuva malunga neefemeli mhlawumbi abantu abayi-70 ekufuneka bashere iithoyilethi. Uthi ziimeko ezibuhlungu kakhulu ezo, zizinto ekufuneka sijonge apho sinokwazi ukuncedwa khona. Uthi sive ngomntu okanye sivile ngomntu othe wadutyulwa ehleli endlini yakhe. Uthi ziimeko ezinjena ekufuneka sizijongile ngoba kaloku umsebenzi wethu kukuthi thina silibhunga xa sihleli phantsi sizame ukuzisa izisombululo, futhi xa sizisa izicelo thina kukuba izicelo zethu zithi ziphendulwe. Ndiyabulela.
Thank you, Ms. Apollos. I've received a message from Councillor Mkondu that he's on his way to join with some colleagues from the ANC. Can I please get an indication whether he has joined you perhaps at the ANC, Councillor Dikilili? Councillor Dikilili? Good morning. Is Councillor Mkondu with you by any chance?
Not yet. He's on his way, must you say.
Thank you. We will then move on to the last speaker on this list in reply or response to the mayoral address, and that is Councillor Clark. Deputy Mayor, please. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Speaker. Good morning. Mayor, thank you for a well-prepared and positive speech. It is evident that we have to be very careful in how we spend the 2020-21 budget. Due to the COVID pandemic, There are many challenges, not only in George or our country, but internationally. Within George, we can overcome our challenges and have to remain positive and focused. I would like to thank Dr. Gratz for her leadership and diligent effort in addressing the many challenges we are facing. I'd also like to thank Mr. Paulse for his effort in addressing the refuse backlog and the time spent in this regard, as well as our other officials in general who are really working very hard to make a success of our municipality. And then, Speaker, regarding the comment about the electricity department or electricity, as far as I know, no units have been taken from anyone. Some people allowed the indigent status to lapse, and whereas infrastructure is concerned, infrastructure and water treatment and wastewater treatment is for the entire town and not just for certain people. And it should work for everyone, for all Georgia's inhabitants. And then lastly, Speaker, I would like to congratulate our matriculants who passed their exams through an extremely difficult period. George Council is very proud of all of them. We also want to motivate those who did not make it this time round, and they still have an opportunity to make their dreams come true and should make it their goal. Thank you, Speaker, and thank you, Mayor. Well done.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. I see that Alderman Gierke's hand is up. Alderman Gierke. Alderman Gierke.
Speaker, thank you. I just want to ask you again. Yes, can you hear me, Speaker?
I hear you clearly.
Speaker?
I can hear you.
Speaker, can you? Okay, thank you. Thank you. I just want to ask you, because of I see we're getting the matters of discretion of the Speaker is at point 12. And it will take quite some time to get there. I have an urgent matter that I want to address Council with, and that pertains to the circumstances in Packersdorp as we speak at the moment. If you allow me, I have a suggestion or a proposal that I would like to make in that regard. It is very urgent, Speaker. The situation is abnormal here by us in Packersdorp at the moment.
Alderman, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Alderman, I don't want to sound insensitive, but let's just get through this with great respect. I'm aware of the urgency of the matter. Let's get on with the agenda, and we will get to this very serious matter. Thank you. We move on to item 3 on the agenda, applications for leave of absence. Can I ask the Acting Municipal Manager, Dr. Gratz, have you received any applications for leave of absence?
Speaker, yes. Good morning, everybody. Received applications for leave of absence from Councillor Daniels and Councillor Fortuin. Councillor Eso has indicated that he will need to leave at 1:30. And then on the administration side, the Director of Civil and Engineering Services is absent, and Mr. Lionel Daniels is acting in his position. And the Acting Director of Community Services, Mr. Paulse, has indicated that he will need to leave at 1 o'clock. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, MM. We will then move on to the roll call, the attendance register. When I call your name, please indicate your presence. Councillor Adams.
Good morning, everyone. Hi, Seth. I am present.
Councillor Barnard.
Present.
Councillor Brown.
Present.
Councillor Buys.
Aye, Speaker.
Councillor Clark.
Present, Speaker.
Councillor Cronje.
Present, Speaker.
Councillor Daniels has indicated that he's apologized. Councillor Dikilili.
Speaker.
Councillor Teenwoordig,
Teenwoordig, Speaker.
Councillor Isso is with us, I see. Councillor Isso.
Present, Speaker.
Thank you. Councillor Farrell.
Present, Speaker.
Councillor Fichland.
Present, Speaker.
Councillor Fortuyn has apologized. Councillor Fry.
Speaker.
Alderman Giereke. Alderman
Yes,
Giereke.
President.
Thank you. Councillor Gultik.
Present, Speaker.
Councillor Hector has indicated, well, he hasn't indicated anything. Councillor Henge. Councillor Henge.
Speaker.
Thank you. Councillor Ingo. Councillor Ingo.
Present, Speaker.
Councillor Yankee Bushman.
Sikhona somlomo.
Thank you. Councillor James.
Speaker.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson.
Present, Speaker.
Thank you. Councillor Kama.
Present, Speaker.
Thank you. Alderman Kritzinger.
Teenwoordig, Speaker.
Councillor Langa.
Sikhona somlomo.
Thank you. Councillor Lisele.
Present, Speaker.
Councillor Lof.
Helen.
Assalamualaikum.
Thank you. Councillor Blow.
Teenwoordig, Speaker.
Councillor Mbete.
Speaker. Present.
Councillor Daka.
No.
Councillor Mkondu. Councillor Mkondu. I saw that Councillor Mkondu was online. He's now not online. There's Councillor Mkondu again. Councillor Mkondu. I can see you, Councillor. Just confirm it, please.
I think technology is beating him, Speaker. He can't unmute himself.
Thank you. I can see him, but thanks. Councillor Nakazama.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Noble. Councillor
Yes,
Noble.
Speaker. Yes,
Thank
Speaker. Councillor Noble Gwyn is in the house.
Councillor Nosana.
Tigona, Speaker.
Thank you. Alderman Petrus.
Present, Speaker.
Thank you. Councillor Plata. Councillor Plata.
Tigona, Speaker.
Thank you. I'm present. Councillor Royland.
Present, Speaker.
Thank you. Councillor Roofse. Councillor Roofse. Are you still with us, Councillor Roofse? I know that he had connection challenges. I see him. We'll come back to him then. Councillor Suffers.
Present, Speaker.
Councillor Snyman.
Present, Speaker.
Councillor Stander.
Present, Speaker.
Councillor Stamela.
Present, Speaker.
Councillor Strubel.
Present, Speaker.
Alderman Tayizi. Alderman Tayizi.
Tigona, Speaker.
Thank you. Alderman van der Wiffen.
Come on, Sulomo.
Thank you. Councillor van Niekerk.
Teenwoordig, Speaker.
Councillor Alderman van Wyk.
Present, Speaker.
Councillor van Brandes.
Present, Speaker.
Councillor Wessels.
Present, Speaker.
Alderman Williams.
Present, Speaker.
Thank you. Councillor Windwy.
Present, Speaker.
Thank you. We move over to the officials. The acting municipal manager is present. The director corporate services.
Present, Speaker.
The acting director financial services.
Present, Speaker.
The acting director civil engineering services.
Present, Speaker.
The acting director electrotechnical services.
Present, Speaker.
The director human settlements.
Councillor present, Speaker.
Thank you. The acting director planning and development.
Delia Power, present, Speaker.
Thank you. The acting director community services.
Present, Speaker.
The director protection services.
Present, Speaker.
Thank you. Then the deputy director legal services and compliance.
Present, Speaker.
Thank you. The deputy director corporate services admin.
Present, Speaker. Good morning, colleagues and councillors.
Good morning, Mr. Lowe. The deputy director internal audit.
Morning, Speaker.
Good morning. The manager legal services.
Morning, Speaker. Present.
The manager IDP.
Morning, Speaker. Present.
The manager communication and IGR.
Morning, Speaker. Present.
The risk manager is present. The senior manager legal services in the office of the municipal manager. That position I think is not filled at the moment. The manager executive support services in the office of the municipal manager.
Present, Speaker.
The manager in the office of the executive mayor.
Present, Speaker.
The acting manager IT.
Speaker.
The manager committee support services.
Present, Speaker. Morning.
Morning. The senior committee official for committee support.
Present, Speaker.
The senior clerk committee support.
Present, Speaker.
And the interpreter, Mr. Paulus.
Yes, Speaker, I'm present.
Thank you. Is there anybody that I've left out apart from Dr. Potgieter? Is there anyone else in the meeting that we need to take note of? I see
Speaker.
that. Yes, Councillor Roelse.
Speaker. Present, Speaker. My mic is giving you problems.
Thank you. Duly noted. Thank you. Councillor Roelse is present. Is there anybody else? That will conclude then the roll call, and we will then move on to item 4 of the agenda, which is official notices. I have not received any official notices. Item 5 is the disclosure of interest by councillors. Item 5 of the Code of Conduct for councillors and disclosure of benefits by municipal staff members. Item 5 of the Code of Conduct for municipal staff members. I have not received anything. Is there anybody who wish or needs to disclose anything to council? None. Item 6 is the list of deferred items. I have not received, or a list of deferred items was not received. We will then move to item 7 of the agenda, minutes of the previous meetings. Item 7.1, minutes of a special e-council meeting held on 30 November 2020. Can I get a proposer there?
Councillor Brown.
Councillor Brown, seconded by?
Councillor Struble.
Thank you. Item 7.2, minutes of a special e-council meeting held on 2 December 2020. Proposer, please.
Councillor Fry.
Thank you, Councillor Fry. Seconded by?
Councillor Gultig.
Thank you, Councillor Gultig. Item 7.3, minutes of an ordinary e-council meeting held on 28 January 21. A proposer there, please.
Councillor Snyman.
Thank you, Councillor Snyman. Seconded by?
Clark.
Councillor Farrell.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. We move on to item 8, minutes of the Executive Mayor in Committee meeting. There are none on this agenda. Item 9, resolutions, decisions taken by the Executive Mayor under delegated authority. None of that was received. Item 10, motions or proposals deferred from previous meetings. There were none that I'm aware of. Item 11, motions. Item 11.1, new motions. No new motions were received.
Speaker.
Councillor Langa.
Yes, good morning. Alderman Williams needs to say something. Just hold on a second, please.
Thank you.
Speaker,
Alderman
can you hear me?
I can hear you, Alderman.
I want to note when I want to put in an urgent motion of exigency, if you'll allow me at any time at your discretion.
I will do so. That was the next point on the agenda, but I will do so. Can we do so at the end of the meeting, please? Thank you.
It's okay.
Thank you. 11.1 is new motions. And then 11.2 is motions of exigency, which we will then move to the end of the meeting. We move to item 12 on the agenda, matters at the discretion of the Speaker. Alderman Gierke, you are welcome to now raise your point that you wish to raise.
Thank you for the opportunity, Speaker. I appreciate. This is not a motion. This is just an opportunity, a request for an opportunity to address Council on the situation that's prevailing in Packersdorp at the moment, Mr. Speaker. As we sit in this meeting, things are abnormal in the streets of Packersdorp.
Alderman, can I?
Yes, sir.
Alderman, can I briefly interrupt you? As a rule, this is a matter at my discretion, and since I have no idea how long you will be and where you want to go with this, and we're not obviously we cannot debate this. Can you do this as a motion, perhaps? Of exigency?
Mr. Speaker, you have Mr. Speaker, no, you have the discretion as a Speaker to allow. This matter pertains to service delivery issues and service delivery issues alone. And I humbly request you to allow my request for an address to the Council, because I would like to come up with some kind of informal proposal afterwards that will take this Council forward and all of us sitting in this Council. I'm humbly requesting you not to make this difficult for us. We need to seek solutions. This is where I'm heading to with this. And we all need to seek solutions for the problem that's existing in Packersdorp at the moment.
Alderman, I'm going to rule that you do this as a motion at the end of this meeting, please. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, can you give me a reason why I cannot submit this under your discretion? Because when it comes to a motion, the majority will vote us out, and we will not have an opportunity to express what is happening, and we will not have an opportunity to seek or to ask for assistance from this Council with regard to Packersdorp. This has got nothing to do with politicking. This has got to do with to assist us all as political parties and as political leaders to assist those people as a community and to take the city forward.
Alderman, I've made my ruling. Please, let's stick to that. I will give you ample opportunity at the end of this meeting to discuss this matter, I can assure you.
But in the meantime, our town is burning. In the meantime, the elderly cannot get to the clinics. In the meantime, people cannot use the buses. So what is the point of waiting until the end of the meeting, sir? I want you to be reasonable. This is a request, and a respectful request to this Council to address the Council. And you have the discretion to do this. Our people, the elderly, cannot go to the clinic at the moment as we speak, and they need their treatment. And school children cannot go or come from schools as we speak at the moment. So we need some intervention, Mr. Speaker.
Alderman Clark, I've made my decision. I've made my ruling. You will get the opportunity to speak when we consider the motions. Thank you very much. I see that Councillor Noble's hand is up. Councillor Noble.
Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. Prior to that, just in short, and just allow me the opportunity. You know, as I'm sitting here, I'm very, very nervous as I'm sitting here at home, because all that you hear outside, it's these police vehicles, riot vehicles from POPs, with their sirens on. You don't know where they're off to. So I just need you to bear that in mind, that we, councillors in Pakkersdorp, we are not very, very comfortable with the current situation out there. Just bear that in mind. Thank you, Speaker. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Councillor Noble. Noted. It's duly noted. I see that Councillor Digilili's hand is up.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, it's not Councillor Vigilil, it's Councillor Yantis Koshman. Speaker, please, Speaker, I am begging you, deal with us as you would have dealt with any other situation in any other areas. I remember times when we were in council chambers and unrest was happening outside, you adjourned the council meetings to attend to that. But now it's in our area, Speaker, and now you are not attending to it. Please, what the councillors are asking is very valid. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Councillor Kushner. I see that Alderman Gierke's hand is up again. Alderman Gierke. We will proceed. Yes.
I don't want to, Mr. Speaker.
I'm listening. Thank you.
I don't want to give too much detail now, but in conjunction with what Councillor Noble has just said, I have just received an SMS, a voice note, which I can play for you or send to you. That and whether it's true or not, that protesters are marching to the houses of the councillors. Now, we have our families, we have our children at home, and we need to address this issue seriously, sir. I am asking you to allow us to discuss this matter, please.
Alderman, I have made my position clear. It will be discussed at the end of this meeting. Thank you very much. I'm not insensitive. I just wish to proceed with this meeting. We move on to item 13, which is urgent matters by the municipal
Speaker, there's a hand up.
Can I, Councillor Dikelili, your hand is up.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I just need to ask, what are councillors supposed to do now? Yes, you've made your ruling, and I respect that, Mr. Speaker. What are councillors staying in Packersdorp to do now in this situation? Should they now adjourn, or should they leave the meeting now and go and attend to that and risk their lives, or would you allow them? Would you allow them to state what they actually wish to do or what they wish to suggest, so that their lives can also be, protected? And I'm not sure, Mr. Speaker,
Order, please. Councillor Langa.
Speaker.
Councillor Langa. When I ask you to maintain order, I mean it.
I did not hear you.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Speaker. On a point of information, as far as I know, the South African Police Services, they are on alert and they are fully aware of the situation. And I'm also sure that Mr. Erasmus knows what to do. Yeah, thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. We move on to item 13, urgent matters by the municipal manager.
Speaker.
Order, please. Councillor Langa.
Charlotte, is jy hier vir jouself of vir die gemeenskap? Charlotte Clark, is jy hier vir jouself of vir die gemeenskap? Hoekom praat jy teen ons terwyl ons lewens onder bedreiging is? What are you trying to do?
Order, Speaker.
Order, please.
Speaker, I would love to ask a question to the mayor, please.
Councillor Langa, no, we are proceeding with the agenda. Thank you. We move to item.
But Speaker, this arrogance of yours is not going to assist us. Honestly.
Councillor Lang, I warn you, please.
No, I know you would warn me. You are threatening me. I am not going to keep quiet whilst people.
You. Item
And
13.
you are staying in a safe area. Our lives are in danger here, Speaker. Your arrogance is not going to assist us in anything here. What happens if Councillor Virgil's house is actually being burned down? What are you going to do?
Councillor Langa. Item 13, urgent matters by the municipal manager.
Speaker, no, I don't have anything.
Thank you. Item 14, reports to council. Item 14.1, adjustments to the 2020-21, 22-23 medium-term revenue and expenditure framework, the MTRF. This is the tabling of this budget by the mayor. Mayor, please proceed.
Thank you, Speaker. I think it's as I alluded to earlier, we are now at the stage of the adjustments budget that we need to attend to by the end of this month. The MFMA permits the provision or permits the submission to Council of an adjustments budget as prescribed in Section 28 of the MFMA, read together with Section 23 of the Municipal Budget Reporting Regulations for approval. The Council at a special meeting held on Thursday, 28 January 2021, dealt with the mid-year budget performance report that is, as it is stipulated in Section 72 of the MFMA, and at that stage then resolved that an adjustments budget be prepared and submitted to Council for consideration before the end of February 2021. In order for Council to consider possible adjustments to the MTRF, the stipulations of Section 28 of the MFMA as well as Section 23 of the MBRR need to be applied. So we have sat here with a situation of an impact of COVID-19 as it has affected our capital expenditure program. It has created various delays in production, along with additional delays in the commencement and execution of work. And part of the remedial action that has been required to resolve these problems has resulted in the appointment during February 2021 of a project engineer to manage this expenditure. However, various and numerous interactive sessions have been held with the directors, and following that we needed to reassess the capital budget as to what could be meaningfully completed in the period up to June 2021. And we then needed to come up with certain solutions. And what is now being proposed here today is that we will then amend the original capital budget that we'd already dealt with in November 2020, which was 473,477 million, to amend that downwards by 218,553 million, and that is as indicated in Annexure A, down to 254,923. Now that is also included in your main item, as will be available to councillors, and it is set out within that document, as you will see on the top of page 175. This is a substantial reduction, but it's believed that it is an achievable target for the balance of the financial year. The adjustments then mean that CRR, the Capital Replacement Reserve, will fund 125,131 million, which is 49% of that budget, after we've made an additional 20 million rand contribution from working capital. The external financing fund, the EFF requirement, also changes, with the loan funding that, as required, we then will be utilizing the loans that we've already drawn down to the extent of 52 million, 862 million. So therefore, there's no need for additional loans to be taken up at this stage. The grant funding also changes due to a portion of the public transfer network grant being transferred from capital to the operating budget, which is 15.3 million rand. And that then leaves our grants that will fund this capital at 67.292. And then there's a balance of 9.6 million that will come out of the SOA, of which the amounts making that up are also included within the documentation before us today. So we then look at if we look at the big adjustments that are made on the capital side, we will notice that there is that relates to the delay of the waterworks extension. That is 82 million rand, which is being pushed out then to the next year, and 36 million in respect of the Outeniqua 10 megaliter addition. Electrotech will also be postponing 27 million into the next financial year. To be able to balance the operating budget after the ravages of COVID-19, numerous adjustments have needed to be made, also after extensive discussions. And you will notice that there's an element of 73 million rands worth of net savings have been achieved. And we've already spoke about our debtors book increase, and that has necessitated an increase in the provision for doubtful debts of 68 million rand. And we've also taken into account that there are a number of aspects of revenue that are likely to exceed budget, but on the other side, there is also revenue that will fall below budget, where especially in electricity and as far as water is concerned. We will then also use 3 million of these savings in the coming months to launch projects to clean up George. I think what is quite clear too is that the effect of COVID-19 on this budget, and if you take the own revenue generated from the core services that we provide of 1.433 billion, so it's 1,433 million. The effect has at least been 5%, which equates to just over 70 billion, and that is the extent that we've needed to reduce our expenditure by to be able to meet this challenge. But the effect is possibly larger as we move through the rest of the financial year, because we don't fully understand all of these effects as yet. And I think that we've got to understand that context, and I think there have been some earlier reference to maintenance and refurbishment, and I think that is very clear to the administration and to finance and to the directorates that we need to undertake those programs. They will all receive attention in the coming months as we prepare for next year's budget. And I think it is quite clear that we'll also look at capital contributions once again. Capital contributions, development contributions are absolutely critical to be able to fund capital expenditure going forward, and without the adequate development contributions in terms of the guidelines that have been laid down by National Treasury, it absolutely stymies your ability to undertake capital expenditure, thereby placing the burden on your existing ratepayers who are already under pressure. So we will continue to look and see what we can do. I think as far as electric infrastructure has been mentioned, and in relating to the particular unrest that we have today, to be able to provide electric infrastructure to all of our informal settlements We're talking about 7,000 houses. We're talking about a cost of 10,000 to 13,000 per unit, which is 70 million up to 91 million rand, which we don't have the present financial resources, and the grants that we receive on an annual basis are very minimal in relation to that, and that makes it extremely difficult for any local municipality to be able to fund that out of own resources. I think there was also some form of aspersion made by Councillor Jantjies Gushman about the airport. I am totally unaware of what she's talking about, and I'm fully supportive of any expansion that we can do at the airport, because it is quite critical to the economy here, and that economy obviously affects Thembalethu. There are literally hundreds and hundreds of residents in Thembalethu who, for instance, have employment in agriculture, and these are aspects of agriculture that lend itself to the export market, and certainly we would want to see our airport expanded, and that we could even get international status from an air cargo perspective, so that we could export those products and also further develop them through agri-processing. So I think we must be quite clear about that I am absolutely pro-development. I am absolutely pro-development and upgrade of infrastructure in Thembalethu, but all of these aspects are subject to the availability of the funding that you have and the underlying economy and the strength of your municipality. And we firstly need to look at our water and at our wastewater, our sewage provision, our electricity, and how we deal with our refuse aspects, as well as our roads, to create the platform, the infrastructure that will attract the investment. I accordingly table this adjustments budget for the 2021 year, right through to the rest of the MTREF period of 2022 to 2023, and my colleagues will comment further on the budget as required. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a reminder, we're on item 14.1, the adjustment budget, and the first to speak on the side of the DA on this is Councillor Wessels. You have 3 minutes.
Speaker, thank you very much. Also, thank you to the Mayor for the thorough tabling of the adjustment budget. This adjustments come after intensive one-on-ones with all the directors over the last couple of months. It's an adjustment budget that speaks to the importance of delivering quality and affordable services to the community of George. It's an adjustment that speaks to the sensitivity of the financial impact that the COVID-19 has, and that it will continue to have on George economy and all its people. It's an adjustment that assures the community of George that while maintaining high service delivery standards, we will ensure the financial stability and prosperity of the George municipality. Speaker, above is underwritten by line items including additional stormwater upgrades to zones in Thembalethu, Andersonville, New Dawn Park, that is funded from MIG and CRR respectively. This can be found on page 87. With regards to electricity, there is an upward adjustment of the 11 kilovolt network in Thembalethu. There's an upward adjustment of the low voltage network cable in George, Packelsdorp, Uniondale and Wilderness. This can be found on page 192. With regards to roads rehabilitation, upward adjustment of respectively 1.1 million and 5.5 million can be found on page 187. It is underwritten by the fact that this budget talks to the fact that George municipality will only be using current unspent loans to the tune of 52 million rand, and that in these difficult times we've managed not to take up any loans. This table can be found on page 174. It is underwritten by the fact that under the guidance of Mayor Leon van Wyk and Dr. Michelle Gratz, George Municipality went on a cost containment hunt, hence reducing operating expenses and effectively saving over 73 million rand. Speaker, spending an additional 3 million on the cleaning of George shows the importance and intention of keeping George clean and a city to be truly proud of. Speaker, this is a back to basics, achievable and spendable budget, aiming to provide every citizen of George the peace of mind that while George Municipality continue to provide high quality service, we as George Municipality are handling the funds of the ratepayers in a sustainable and responsible manner. I would thus like to recommend points A to F as on page 178. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Wessels. Next to speak on the item is Alderman van der Woofen. You have 4 minutes, Alderman.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, we as the ANC read the take of the Mayor and Councillor Wessels completely differently. We note with great concern that the capital budget is scaled down by more or less 218 million. The downward adjustment at civil seems to be more than 150 million rand, and electrotechnical services at almost 30 million. That, Speaker, contradicts what the Mayor was claiming in his address regarding service delivery, and even what Councillor Wessels has just claimed. My question is, which of those projects emanating from last year's adjustment budget, where we mutually and collectively agreed upon and eventually enforced by a court ruling, are now biting in the dust? Can we please get clarity? Illegal dumping seems to be a much more serious challenge than ever acknowledged before, regardless of continuous alerts from this side of the House. An additional 3 million on top of the existing 1.6 million in order to deal with this issue emphasize our concerns. Or is your endeavor to address this issue now part of your election campaign? Your timing is suspicious. You ignore illegal dumping for more than 4 years and then act suddenly just before the next local government election, claiming that you want to keep George clean. You've never been in the disadvantaged areas and see what is happening there. If there are no consequences for illegal dumping combined with education, the problem shall get worse. That we can alert you. Action is needed. A combined strategy including community services, protection services, media communication departments, EPW, and all other departments can add value to an awareness campaign in this regard. Overtime also seems to be a huge challenge, and it's going to increase now that you are preparing for elections. I'm waiting patiently for the answer to my question regarding the projects emanating from last year's adjustment budget, the way forward or strategy regarding illegal dumping, and also, Speaker, how can we afford that projects to the value of 212 million or 218 million go down the drain? This is a question.
Thank you, Alderman. Before we move on to the next speaker, MM, can I, through you, request that Mr. Wallace please respond to the questions by Alderman van der Woofen? MM?
Yes, Speaker, sorry, I thought you were asking Mr. Wallace to respond.
Through you, yes, is Mr. Wallace present? Mr. Wallace?
Speaker, I've got connectivity issues this morning. Can you briefly just repeat the questions, please?
The questions were about the apparent indication by Alderman van der Woofen that the MIG funds are unspent, that the whole question about the the funding that's available for the illegal dumping. And the first question that you referred to, what about the budget items that were agreed to and mutually shared from the previous budget, whether those have been neglected or whether those will now be left behind in terms of the savings that were introduced on the current budget or the proposed new budget.
Thank you,
Am I right? One moment, Mr. Wallace. Am I right, Alderman van der Hoeven?
Speaker, sorry, I must unmute myself every time, so that takes time. Speaker, more or less. Speaker, we want to know whether there are any projects that we mutually agreed upon in the last adjustment budget or emanating from the last adjustment budget that are now biting in the dust because of 218 million that has been scaled down. That is the first question. I hope Mr. Councillor or Mr. Wallace can hear me. We want, and then what is the way forward regarding illegal dumping? Are we just going to throw money at it until the election, until this coming election, and then we're going to let it go again? Is there any strategy in order regarding consequences and education in this regard? That's basically my question. And how can we afford that projects to the value of 218 million goes down the drain?
Thank you, Alderman.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, just on the list of items, those items were included in the budget that we approved in June. We have gone through the whole of the budget at this stage, Speaker, to effect savings on the operating budget and prioritizing the capital budget. Now, the prioritizing in the capital budget was done mainly due to capacity constraints on the one hand, and on the other hand, issues with rolling out of the projects. That list is not off the table, Alderman, and I think what we will have to do is to reassess that when we start with our budget process going forward, to clearly indicate which will be completed in this financial year and which we need to provide for next year. On the illegal dumping, Speaker, Mr. Paulse has started with getting certain aspects of illegal dumping in place. You will remember that in our deliberations, the issue regarding the regional landfill site came to the fore. That won't commence in this financial year, and so we had to reprioritize that department's budget, and provision has been made for addressing the illegal dumping. And I think the strategy that will come to that will feature going forward, and Mr. Paulse can maybe also come in here later, is one that was followed in that project that was done together with the Garden Route District Municipality, and I suppose the councillors have seen footage of that on social media as well. So it's a combination of public awareness on the one hand, and then using skips to on a bigger scale attempt to clean the whole of George. The municipal manager has also requested that we specifically look at this adjustments budget to provide additional funding so that we can execute this the strategy that Mr. Pauls's department will carry out. Speaker, then on the MIG funding, I think there in the agenda there is an item on the MIG funding, and I think after we've gone through that item, it will become clear to council the reasons why we were not able to carry out the projects as we've approved on the capital budget. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. Alderman van der Hoeven.
Thank you, Speaker. I just want to quickly respond and say thank you to Mr. Wallace for acknowledging that we don't have the capacity to fully implement the capital budget and surely also some of the operational budget. There's my case, Speaker.
Thank you. We move on to the next speaker, is Alderman Giereke, the PVI. You have 2 minutes, Alderman.
Yeah, Speaker, certainly on the issue of cleansing or cleaning the city, we don't see that effect in our communities. Certainly not. In the streets where we drive and where we live, it is certainly happening not in our town. So therefore, we are calling on that department to expedite the process or the project so our streets become clean and healthy again. On page 173, you have this is a critical point, the sale of property. At the end of June 2020, there was 28 million rand on the sale of property. And again, when you end it, in the last column, it's 28,827,911 rand. We, the PBI, would like to know that sale of property, where did it take place? What type of property is it? Who bought the property? How many black people and colored people got access to that type of property? If it's land, whatever type of property, if it's buildings, please specify what type of property we're talking about here. Because for the last couple of years, blacks and colored people in this city struggle to get access to land in the city. And therefore, by the same token, the PBI is calling on the DA government today to place a moratorium on the sale of land until we have done a complete land audit and until we know where the land is allocated and who have access to that type of land. If you page over on page 174, you will see the total unspent loans. It's 52 million rand, 862 and 422 rand, 862,422 rand. Those unspent loans, there's interest on the unspent loans. It means that the taxpayer is paying that interest and carrying the interest on that unspent loans. We would like to know how much is it, and where is that money coming from that is funding the interest on that unspent loans. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alderman. Through you to Mr. Wallace. Mr. Wallace, can you respond?
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, just on the last question regarding the unspent loans. The unspent loans relate to, as you will notice on page 174, relate to a loan that was taken to fund a project that was subsequently rolled over into this financial year. So what we argued after the considerable reduction in the capital budget was that we would rather contribute additional CRR funding to fund the complete budget and not take up any loans in this financial year. This will also address the issue of Alderman Giereke regarding possible interest that needs to be paid, although the the loan has not been capitalized. So the other smaller portions are savings from all rollovers from previous financial years that will be dealt with now in this in concluding this current financial year. And then Speaker, on the issue regarding the sale of property, you will notice that the 26 million that is lying there is an opening balance from previous years sales, and so one will have to move back to pick up, you know, what properties were sold there, and then up to February month there has been sales to the value of 3 million. I'm not sure whether Delia or Mr. Donnie Gelderbloem can maybe allude to you know, what kind of properties were sold up to February month, but I assume that is the normal vacant land that is available for purchase by the public. But maybe they can just comment on that.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. Mrs. Parr, would you like to add to that with regards to the properties worth 3 million rands?
Thank you, Speaker. Unfortunately, I can't give the detail, but I can confirm that the properties that are sold are investment properties. Generally, we don't sell a property unless we have a council resolution. Most of the properties sold are usually put on tender, so it's an open bid process that is followed. Mr. Gelderbloem, or our property section, manages mostly the properties in the Greater George area, and as far as properties in the Thembalethu and parts of Bokkelsdorp is concerned, that section is managed by Human Settlements Department. But I can confirm also that we do submit quarterly reports to the Section 80 committee with details on sites that were sold and alienated, and I believe also submitted to council for information.
Thank you, Ms. Parr. Appreciation. Alderman, I assume that answers your questions. We move on then to the next speaker on the list.
Yeah, it doesn't answer my questions, Mr. Speaker, because, okay, you can move on. It's your council. It's your DA council. You're trying to ignore everything that we do.
Alderman, I'm not going to get into an argument with you. I've actually given you the opportunity and I've asked you, does that answer your question? So I think I've done my duty as far as that's concerned, but thank you for the permission to move on. EFF is next to speak.
But you didn't wait. You didn't wait until I answer you. You didn't wait. You move on. Because you don't want to hear. You're selling this property to white people all the time and we don't get property.
Thank you. Thank you, Alderman. Next to speak on this is the EFF. Councillor Kama, you have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Speaker. Firstly, we would like to welcome this adjustment budget, even though we would like to see changes, especially on the recommendation A. The EFF would like to share concerns on Department of Cooperative Service that an amount of money that was allocated to build ramp to stage for the disabled persons to all halls across the city, from our from our communities, is adjusted. We feel like that money must be not be taken on adjustment on this budget, because we do know how the disabled people struggle to enter on our community halls, not only to come to listen to their community problems, even when they came for their important reasons. On civil engineering service, once again, we note on a serious concern the continued onslaught of the poor people to see how this municipality is taking care of the people living in urban areas. An amount of 8 million that is allocated
to fix roads in the Greater George that are not even need that attention, whereby in our areas we drive on the primary roads on the daily basis. It really proves that this municipality only cares about those living in town. On electrical service, same applies. We are not happy about the minus 60 million that was taken from transformers that were meant from the Tembale to Palos Petra. On the recommendation B of operating budget, we note the reducement of electricity tariffs and the water sales, as many homes has fallen into difficulties due to COVID-19. But we're still unhappy about the increase on the refuse and sanitation. Furthermore, the recommendations are noted. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Councillor Kama. Next to speak on the item is the Freedom Front Plus. Councillor van die Kerk, you have 1 minute.
Thank you, Speaker. Baie dankie. Ons het na die aangepaste begroting gekyk en aan die span wat hier aan gewerk het, moet ons sê, met dit wat julle het op hande, het julle redelik goed van julle taak gekwyt, maar dit sny nie die rooi ligte uit wat flikker nie. Nou die Speaker, dit is duidelik dat daar nie geld beskikbaar is om al die gate toe te maak nie. En daarom staan ons by wat ons vanmôre gesê het, dat na alternatiewe bronne van befondsing, of dit gaan joint ventures wees, as die privaat sektor gaan inkry as vennootskappe, sal moet geëksploreer word om hierdie uitdagings aan te spreek. Laastens ten opsigte van die onwettige vuilnisverwydering, daar moet ek ook saamstem met die vorige sprekers. Ons het al deur hierdie oefeninge gegaan. Jy maak vandag skoon oor 2 weke, lyk dit presies weer net so, en dan is dit weer 'n paar miljoen rand wat gaan en almal klaar oor die vuil buurte. Daar sal moet ander stappe ook geneem word, opvoeding, bins, wat ook al beplan word, maar ons kan nie net geld in 'n donker gat gooi nie. Dankie meneer.
Thank you, Councillor van die Kerk. Last to speak on this item is Councillor Cronje. You have 1 minute, Councillor.
Thank you, Speaker. I second the proposals. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cronje. We move to item 14.2, the revisions that must be not the no financial, but the non-financial component of the 2020-21 top layer service delivery and budget implementation plan, the SDBIP. First to speak there is Councillor Snyman. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Speaker. I draw your attention to page 230 of the agenda. This item is to provide Council an opportunity to consider and approve the revisions to the non-financial component of the 2021 SDBIP, as provided by Section 54C of the Local Government Municipal Financial Management Act of 56 of 2003. An ideal SDBIP provides a vital link between the Executive Mayor, Council and Administration, and facilitates the process by holding management accountable for its performance. The proposed revisions are attached at Annexure A to the agenda. It must be noted that these proposed revisions do not affect the planned targets, but instead necessitate certain movements within the SDBIP and some quality improvements with respect to appropriate sources of evidence. I therefore propose, as per the proposal on page 230, sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Snyman. Next to speak on this is Alderman Williams. Alderman Williams, you have 4 minutes. Alderman Williams.
Mr. Speaker.
Alderman Williams, I can proceed.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Speaker, I see it's a revision of these 9 financial components of the SDBIP department. And I see they are listed here, the projects and the time frame and the KPIs, where I saw that you have put on the item the completion of the construction of the Toast Ranton Library, and you put a time frame 30 June 2021. But my question is under human settlements. Can I ask in human settlements, one, the
Alderman Williams, we've lost you.
What is wrong?
Alderman Williams, we lost you.
What is wrong? That's my first question to Charles.
Alderman Williams, Alderman Williams, Alderman Williams.
Yes.
We lost you when when you started referring to human settlements. We lost you. Can you please repeat?
My question is, as this SDBIP is focusing on departmental SDBIPs, where it lay out timeframes of certain projects. Now, my question is to Mr. Charles Lever, the project in Pakasdorp, the housing project in Pakasdorp. When are people going to be put into those houses? What is the delay? That's the first question. The second question is, I see here it's saying that there will be 40 top structures built in extension 42 and 58. And the time frame have been put there. How many is built up to date? Are you still with me?
I'm with you, Alderman. I'm with you.
Right. My third question is under protection services, the GIPTA. When is the rollout going to go ahead in Thembalethu? Those are the three questions under the item.
Thank you, Alderman. I see that the acting municipal manager's hand is up. Dr. Gratz.
Thank you, Speaker. I'm not going to answer all the specific questions which the Alderman asked, but just to draw Council's attention to the last column on the right-hand side, and those are the proposed changes. So, for example, in the instance of the Toes-Rutten Library, the request is for that KPI to be removed because there is no funding. So if I can just request that the councillors look at the change, the proposed changes at the far right-hand column. Thank you, Speaker.
I saw that right-hand column, but it still doesn't answer the questions I have. Let the department answer, please.
Thank you, Alderman. Through you, Mr. Lever.
Good morning, Speaker, councillors. Yes, with regard to the first question on the delay of the development of 325 East, the response is as follows, and I think this has put it to council as well, that due to the fact that the infrastructure network doesn't have the capacity to service the development, we cannot hand over the houses. So we cannot hand over houses that cannot be connected to the sewer system. And that is, we are currently busy with the installation of a package plant, and that's so the plant
Councillor Digilili.
Sorry.
Order, please.
Speaker.
Order, please. I'm busy, please. Thank you. Councillor Digilili. Thank you. Councillor Digilili. Councillor Digilili.
Speaker.
Can you please switch off your microphone?
But Alderman Williams are still talking, or is he off now?
I'm trying to get an audible response from Mr. Libber. We are all interested in that. Just mute the mic. Please mute the mic while he is speaking. Thank you. Mr. Libber, please proceed.
Okay, Speaker, I'm not sure where I was lost here, but
you were busy with the package plant. If you can continue from there, please.
Completion date projected towards the end July, towards end June, July. So once that is in place, and only then when we can connect, we can hand over houses to the beneficiaries. So Speaker, that one is delayed because of that sewer network upgrade. The second question and the last question there for us was that the 40 top structures with regard to extensions 42 and 58. Yes, that KPI, we're not asking that it be removed, but we are asking, we are proceeding with the completion of top structures, but the reporting, which we will revise in the new year, the method of reporting, but the reporting was set towards the end, and that 40 top structures will be completed. Speaker, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Liver. Last question was on the rollout of the GIPTN through the MM. Mr. Erasmus, can you please respond to that?
Yeah, thank you, Speaker. Good morning, everyone. This is the engagements, the stakeholder engagements with the various role players or stakeholders have been reinitiated. So that started again. And there's currently 5 work stream teams that's working frantically, working to get this online. I wouldn't want to venture, Speaker, through you to give a specific date, but it's not too far. If everything goes well, we will announce that date after we've engaged with the Section 79, and the 79, that item will then come through to Council. But it's all systems go. They are busy, as I'm saying, and we will now make that announcement when we see that it's going to materialize as planned. So we will come back with the item via the Section 79 to Council on this matter. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Erasmus. Alderman Williams.
Question is, how much are we spending on security services on that project in Pakashaw? Did we budget for that? And the second one is, I see all our housing projects are driven out of Cape Town. Is it that we don't have the capacity, or is Cape Town bullying us? What is going on?
Alderman, if I may ask, are those your last questions?
And the last question, I see we are in a hurry for me to step down.
No, I'm not.
Where did we end up with the budget of N2 project? Then that's the last question. You can now relax, Pretorius.
Thank you, Alderman, for allowing me to relax. Mr. Liber, can you perhaps respond through the MM to the first 2 questions?
Will do so, Speaker. Speaker, with regard to the security, we must remember that the project of 3 to 5 East is a catalytic project, and it is the developer there is province. So with regard to security, the costs are for the provincial department, not for George Municipality. George Municipality is responsible for the beneficiary administration on the project, and it's limited to that only. Secondly, the reason why we had to release certain projects, we had various delays on projects within the Greater George, and what happened was that in order for us to perform and for province also to reach their targets, and because of the directive from National Treasury not allowing us to piggyback on tenders again, we couldn't make use of the framework of tenders of province. So in order to expedite and meet the target within the set periods, we had to ask province to roll out the project from their side to complete it within time. And that was the only reason for those ones. Currently, we are busy establishing our own framework of tenders within a database here at the George Municipality, which we will make use of in future. Lastly, the N2 project is also a catalytic project from province, but because of planning issues and planning approvals that lapsed on that project, the project is currently on hold, not off, but on hold. But also that one is being driven by the provincial department as one of the catalytic projects. Thank you, Chairperson, Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Libber. Through the Mr. Daniels, are you in a position to respond to the N2 project?
Speaker, the N2 project is that housing project I think being referred to.
I thought it was the bridge.
Oh no, if it's a bridge, then yes, I only reported on the housing project at the N2.
No, I know that. Alderman Williams, was your last question in relation to the bridge?
Look, can you give Mr. Daniels to report on the bridge?
Thank you. Mr. Daniels?
Through you, can I ask Ms. Lindsay Moyman maybe to answer that question because she's more informed about the project than myself, please?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we're not hearing anything.
My apologies, Speaker, sorry. The N2 bridge, as Council is aware, the Department of Transport and Public Works gave almost 82 million for the funding towards that. This money has then been transferred to the SANRAL, who will be the implementing agent for that bridge project. Now, SANRAL had previously proceeded with own funding to appoint a consultant to get the designs done and almost to bring that project to implementation readiness. We have a meeting with SANRAL next week. They received the funding within their financial year, so they obviously had financial obligations and certain internal processes that they had to conclude to bring that funding into their budget and also to ensure that their budget is available in the outer financial years, because this project will obviously be over a couple of financial years. But we have a meeting with them next week, at which time they will give us the latest project progress and feedback. And I know that they are as eager as what George Municipality is to see this project commence as soon as possible. But as soon as we have feedback from the SANRAL, we will provide feedback to Council for their information as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moyman. Alderman Williams?
I am okay, Mr. Speaker.
The last to speak on this item is, sorry, not the last. The next speaker on this item is the AIC, Councillor Nkondu. You have 2 minutes, Councillor Nkondu. Councillor. Councillor Nkondu, please proceed. He doesn't have sound. Councillor Nkondu, can you unmute? Councillor Nkondu, I see your microphone is on. Yeah, he's muted himself. Councillor Nkondu, I will ask IT to again attend to you. And my apologies for this inconvenience. Councillor Nkondu, can you speak? Well, I know you can speak, but can we hear you? I'm afraid we'll have to move on. Last speak on this item is Councillor Mbete. You have 1 minute, Councillor Mbete.
Thank you, Speaker. I second the recommendation made by my colleague.
Thank you very much. Item 14.3, the official representatives, Secundi and municipal officials for SALGO governance structures for the working group studies. There's no debate on that item. Item 14.4, renewal of audit committee member team. There are only DA speakers on this matter. In the absence of Ikoza and Good, who haven't indicated that they wish to speak on this item in any event. So with your permission, councillors, I will make that a no debate. We then move to item 14.5, the amended annual program for council and its committees from March 2021 to December 2021. The first speaker there is Councillor Brown. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Speaker. Thanks, Speaker. I want to propose that Council accepts the recommendations as set out on page 279, that the schedule of proposed Council and committee meetings as from March 2021 to December 2021 be approved. Thanks, Speaker.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Next to speak is Councillor Mkondo. Councillor Mkondo, I hope you can join us now.
Councillor Banda.
Chief Whip.
Speaker, Councillor Mkondo has indicated to me via WhatsApp that he cannot unmute his system, so he will not be speaking on this item, so it could also go through as a no debate.
Thank you, so noted. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chief Whip. We then move on to item 14.6, 2021 Capital Adjustment Budget MIG project amendments. The first to speak there is Councillor von Brandes. You have 3 minutes, Councillor von Brandes.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, as explained in the previous council meetings, Cogna was not impressed with the George municipality's ability to spend allocated grant funding. With the assistance of the acting MM, Cogna came with compromises to the George municipality and requested that we must first focus on already approved deeper projects and that we must clear the 17 uncompleted projects. All efforts were made to meet the January 2021 deadline, but there remain 3 system issues. This is being followed up daily with the role players to ensure that this can be finalized and everybody is on the same page. The water treatment works is not yet an approved deeper project. The director had allocated a MIG funding amount of 14.1 million to the upgrade of the new water treatment works plant. Due to the new working partnership with Cogna, they have approved that the funding be moved towards the already approved Outeniqua wastewater treatment works project. The revised amount of 12.8 million is now on the budget to accommodate the Outeniqua wastewater treatment works. These adjustments do not affect Council's commitments to these projects, but rather just change the funding source. Although it's a slight downwards adjustment of 1.2 million, we must not see this as a negative, but rather as a positive. Because of the new working relationship, we will not lose 14 million towards the upgrade of the water treatment works project, but rather be it relocated as mentioned. Speaker, I therefore propose the recommendations as set out on page 294. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Councillor von Brandes. Next to speak is Alderman van der Hoeven. You have 4 minutes, Alderman.
Thank you, Speaker. I will not use 4 minutes because there's actually I should keep quiet because there's actually nothing to say about this. But perhaps just for clarity, Speaker, this is not, I can't understand how you put this as part of the adjustment budget. We've dealt with the adjustment budget and the adjustment budget is behind us. Seemingly you want to cover something up or whatever. You don't want to say failure to apply correctly. That is the name of this item. But now you come up with an adjustment budget. It's very far from this, Speaker. Your COCTA is claiming that your previous application is not convincing, not complying, and does not meet the thresholds of COCTA. It doesn't say exactly like that, but that's my take on it, Speaker. It seems like it creates the impression that our officials that made this application for funds is amateurs. And surely, Speaker, there is a MACO member that oversee this, and the MACO is in the MACO also speaker. This comes through that procedures through that channel, but I'm just shaking my head. Seemingly we are on the verge of losing another 14 million, or about to, but it's nothing compared with the 20 million that we've already lost, that we referred to in the last council meeting, because of non-compliance. Speaker, I don't know what more to say. I've got 4 minutes. Perhaps I must address something else, but I'm going to leave it just there.
Thank you for that interpretation, Alderman van der Woofen. Next to speak on the item is the EFF. Councillor Kama, you have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Speaker. EFF would like to see this process completed so that we can agree. Yes, Speaker, we agree on the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next to speak on this is Councillor Safis. You have 1 minute.
Speaker, it gives me no reason because my colleague has set the record straight. This is how we want to govern. Therefore, I second the proposal, Chairperson.
Thank you, Councillor Safis. Next to we move then to item 14.6, policy for the installation of services in road reserves. First to speak there is Councillor Stander. You have 3 minutes, Councillor.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, the purpose of this item is for Council to approve a policy which coordinates the huge demand from private as well as public services within our road reserves. The policy under discussion and which is attached as Annexure A of the agenda of today has already been workshopped with councillors on the 17th of November 2020. Speaker, unless there are any other proposals pertaining this policy, I want to propose the recommendation on page 305 of the agenda, namely, that the policy for installation of services in road reserves be approved for implementation as from the 1st of July 2021. I thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Councillor Stander. Next to speak is the ANC and Councillor Loff. You have 3 minutes. Councillor Loff. I see that Alderman van der Woofen's hand is up. Alderman van der Woofen.
Yeah, Speaker, I just want to rectify something. You said it's item 14.6. We are now at item 14.7 for the record, Speaker.
Thank you so much for that rectification. I appreciate that, Alderman. Thank you very much. You are clearly on a thoroughness trip, and I appreciate that. Thank you. My apologies to all councillors. It was item 14.7 for the record, policy for the installation of services in road reserves. And next speaker is Councillor Loff, who has 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Speaker, for the opportunity. It seems as if this council's got a norm now, not bringing policies to council or to having workshops on these policies. I have read through the agenda, and we take cognizance of the comments that was being made by the Director of Development and Planning. And we know that it is important that we have regulatory systems in place, how to appoint this telecommunications infrastructure on the road reserves. But we also said that we need to have the opportunity, all of us on this council, to have the opportunity to voice or giving our input in all the policies that's been coming to this council or being adopted by this council. Therefore, we ask that this thing will be referred back and that we will have a proper workshop where everybody, every council and everybody in this council can have an opportunity to put their input also and to have the opportunity to see whether this is a policy that will really suit and that will have a positive influence and give a equal opportunity to all the people in this in George and in the whole spectrum. Thank you.
Thank you. I see the acting MM's hand is up, Dr. Gratz.
Speaker, I noted it's indicated that a workshop was held on the 17th of November 2020 regarding this policy. If someone could just confirm that, please.
Thank you, MM. If we read on page 302, I think it's clear what's happening or what has happened. Thank you. We will then move on to the last speaker on this item, which is Councillor Vugland. You have 1 minute, Councillor.
Speaker.
Thank you. Please proceed, Councillor.
I second the proposal made by Councillor Standard. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We move on to item 14.8. I hope I have it right this time. Minutes of the Municipal Public Accounts Committee e-meeting that took place on the 10th of February 2021. First to speak there is Councillor Ingo. You have 2 minutes.
Dankie Speaker. Hierdie komitee is ingestel om as waghond te dien oor die organisasie. Hulle moet kyk na dat daar nie korrupsie en ongeruimdhede plaasvind in die organisasie nie. Daarom is dit so doeltreffend. En die lede wat op die komitee dien, lewer 'n positiewe impak. En dit maak die komitee so doeltreffend. Daarom wil ek die minutes van hierdie komitee wat van bladsy 325 tot 337 wat ek voorstel. Dankie.
Thank you, Councillor Ingo. Ms. Apollos, can you please translate?
Uthi ke le komiti ibekiwe ukuba mayibe liliso lebhunga ijonge into yobana akukho rhwaphilizo okanye ubuqhetseba obuthi benzeke. Ngoko ke ndizayixhasa ke iminutes zale komiti ngokuba njengokuba zibhaliwe ke phaa kupage 32.
Councillor Ingo, can you help there?
338.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Next to speak on this item is Councillor De Tooy. You have 2 minutes, Councillor.
Baie dankie Speaker. Ek weet nie of ek 2 minute gaan gebruik nie, maar nou ja, laat ons maar voortgaan. Speaker, as voorsitter van Impact vergadering is ek half bekommerd want dit wil vir my voorkom asof die administrasie nie antwoorde gee vir dit wat ons vra in Impact nie. Dit wil vir my voorkom soms van die vrae word net half geantwoord of dit word omseil. So daarom is daar heelwat van hierdie itemme wat ons die laaste vergadering gehad het terugverwys omdat nie al die inligting gegee is nie. Nou dit mors ons tyd ook as Impact. So ek verwag van amptenare om ons die regte inligting te gee en die inligting wat ons vra. So ek wil hê die raad moet net kennis neem hiervan indien daar dan van Impact gaan verwys word en vra dat departement ondersoek gaan word, dat dit as gevolg van sal wees omdat ons nie die antwoorde kry op vrae wat ons vra nie. Dankie Speaker, dis al wat ek te sê het.
Thank you, Councillor De Tooy. Ms. Apollos, translation, please.
Ithi ke yona i-ACDP njengosihlalo wale komiti uthi ixhalabile into ebangela uba makaxhalabe into yobana ikhangeleka ingathi i-administration ayisiniki impendulo zemibuzo esithi sinayo okanye sibe nayo okanye imibuzo esithi siyifake. Leyo into ibangela uba ii-items ezininzi sithi sizibuyise back ngoba azinayo le mpendulo besizifuna. Ngoko ke kuba silindele ii-officials zisinike impendulo okanye ulwazi olupheleleyo sithi sizireferishe back ii-items. Ngoko ke xa kukhona izinto ezithile ezizawubuzwa kuthi ezawulindeleka uba masibe nazo isisombululo, ndicela nje iyaziwe ukubana asinazo impendulo ngoba i-administration kukho imibuzo ethile engekasiphenduli nangoku. Enkosi.
Thank you, Mr. Paulus. Last to speak on this item is Councillor Strubel. You have 1 minute.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I second the proposal of my DA colleague, Councillor Hendrik Ingo, that the minutes of the e-meeting dated the 10th of February 2021 be approved. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Councillor Strubel. Do you wish to add something?
Speaker, yes, if I may just indicate that I share Councillor Du Toit's concern regarding the response to some of the questions raised by MPAC. I can confirm that there are items in the system which have been prepared with full comprehensive answers to the outstanding matters. Thanks.
Thank you, Appreciation. We move on to item 14.9. Revision of recruitment and selection policy. The first to speak there is Councillor Clark. You have 3 minutes, Councillor Clark.
Speaker, thank you. The background of this item is that the municipality has been facing many challenges with the current recruitment and selection policy, and there are various shortcomings in the current policy attached to this item as Annexure A. And some of these challenges is listed on page 339. So the purpose of the report is to present to Council a revised recruitment and selection policy, which is Annexure B to this agenda. And I therefore recommend that Council approve the draft revised policy attached here to as Annexure B to the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Next to speak is Councillor Langa. Councillor Langa, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good morning to yourself and good morning to the colleagues. Mr. Speaker, first of all, I think I need to point out something to yourselves as well as our colleagues, that this policy was actually workshopped, but half workshopped. And it was agreed that because not everybody is vested with the current policy, and nobody is going to be able to compare what has been changed in the current policy into what is to be approved by this council. So it was requested that this policy be referred back so that we bring the current policy. On the current policy, we are able to be pointed out that this is what has changed in the new policy. And that, Mr. Speaker, has not happened, right? And now today, Mr. Speaker, you coming with this policy where people have not been given what they wanted to actually see so that they can make a meaningful contribution towards the development of this very important policy. But because, Mr. Speaker, you have the right now to actually change, I suppose, any council decision unilaterally so, and send things, according to how you feel comfortable, because that is what we have done. There was a decision that it needs to be sent back so that we can have both policies, the new and the old. But you decided you are going to do it otherwise because it was said it must come back or via a workshop again. And yet that did not happen, Mr. Speaker. And coming back to the policy, Mr. Speaker, I see quite a number of things that I've actually picked up there, Mr. Speaker. That speaks to what was the arrangement or the agreement with regards to this very policy, Mr. Speaker. My issue with this policy, it does not, or I couldn't see where we agreed, or it was actually in the last policy, where it says, Mr. Speaker, that there needs to be a ceiling of a difference, if you will, for a lack of a better word, right? Between the races as we wish to address the question of the disparities. Yes, the disparities between races, so that it does not have to, let me make an example so that everybody can actually get clarity on this one. If you have a target of 100 white people into a department, and then you have 70 people of color into the same department, and then you have 50 Africans into that department. That is your target. Now you have 99 white people in that, employed, and you have 69 colored people in that department, and you have only 3 blacks, but the target says there must be 50. You cannot have them all open, Mr. Speaker. There must be a disparity check to say it cannot be as big as 60 or 70 in between. So there must be an effort that is made to make sure that we bring up the least represented. I do not see that, Mr. Speaker. So therefore, we cannot be giving support to such a policy that is so vague, that is being rushed as if something, Mr. Speaker, is being hidden here. So we are not in support of this. We are still saying bring back the policy, give comparisons where you have pointed out the changes as compared to what was there already. Thank you, Speaker. Thank you for being lenient. I see you didn't shout at me today.
Thank you, Councillor Langa. Next to speak on this is Alderman Giereke. You have 1 minute, Alderman.
Okay, Speaker, we have.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't notice. 1 moment, please, Alderman. Chief Whip.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, point number 30 of the rules of order say that I may ask for a personal explanation. And I would just like to know at what council meeting was a resolution taken that the policy would be workshopped again, as we did workshop it once. Thank you, Speaker. I think that question is to you or to the MM. I'd like to know what council resolution was taken in that regard.
That was not it was, if I may answer, MM, it was not a council resolution. There was a workshop where it was agreed that the matter will be rediscussed, and in that regard, the policies were circulated in writing to all councillors for their comments. MM, I don't know whether you wish to add something?
No, Speaker. No, I don't wish to add anything.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Chief Whip?
Absolutely. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. We move on to the next speaker. My apologies, Alderman, for interrupting you. You have 1 minute.
Yeah, Speaker, there was no council resolution, you are right, but there was a resolution in the workshop that we have asked that after we've made after the policy has been circulated, that we must come back to workshop the policy again before it is referred to the council meeting. That was the resolution taken in the workshop. It would now appear that you are acting in contravention of that resolution and you're pushing this policy straight away to council without us having other interaction to make amendments on a piece of paper and send it through. Those amendments have not even been considered. We need to engage and interact on when we design policy. We need to speak and argue and debate. This is what it's all about. You cannot just rush a policy. And then secondly, I see in your recommendation, you're just asking here for approval of this policy. There was an LLF meeting, Mrs. MM, and then apparently this policy has been discussed there. I don't see in the recommendation what the LLF has resolved. Are the unions satisfied with this policy? Do they approve of this policy? Can we get their response on record, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman, I think it's reflected in the item where it was indicated that it was well received. That's my wording. I don't have it in front of me, unfortunately, but I have read the item. That it was well, in my words, then, for lack of want of a better description, well received. But I will give the MM the opportunity to respond to that question.
Speaker, I have also read the item. I have seen that comment, but that's merely a comment. It should have been part of the recommendation, because after the approval of this policy, if there are any labor-related issues pertaining to this policy, we, even as opposition, would be able to tell the unions, you've agreed to this policy. This is why I am asking, can we have this on record? Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Noted. I think it is on record now, but MM, do you wish to add?
Thank you, Speaker. Yes, I can confirm it was workshopped with the unions. I can also confirm that, that the union said that they thanked us for a progressive policy. They did have a few comments which were all incorporated into this policy. For example, they wish to have 2 working days notice prior to a shortlisting meeting or prior to interviews, which we have now brought into that policy. They also had a question about the transfers, and they asked that it would just be a once-off. That was also incorporated. They also had a query about physical fitness. So there were a few matters which they raised, and they have all been incorporated into this policy. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, MM. We then move to the last speaker on this item, which is Councillor Gultik. Councillor Gultik, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Speaker. I would like to commend and thank the administration for the new revised recruitment and selection policy. It will clearly help with a lot of vacancies and improve service delivery. Therefore, I am pleased to second the recommendation from my colleague, Councillor Clark, Deputy Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gultik. We move on to item 14, reports to Council. Item 14.10, George Municipality Work from Home Policy Standards Governing Working from Home. First to speak there is Councillor Stemela. Councillor Stemela, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, the item was workshop by the councillors as well as the unions. As the councillors has been workshopped and as well, Speaker, I will propose the policy as it stipulated at the recommendation I propose.
Thank you, Councillor Stemela. Next to speak is Councillor Langa. Councillor Langa, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much. You see, this one, it's quite disturbing. I do not understand, Mr. Speaker, the question of relegating such an important authority to some managers. Some managers are there, without really taking, full control of what is happening, and all they do is to vilify and victimize people that they don't like. I have a very bad example that I can give to you now, Mr. Speaker, with regards to the electricity department, for an example, where a woman who has a child less than 2 years old, who is being brutally victimized by her superior. She cannot have somebody who looks after a child at times, then she's got to make arrangements. And when she asks for family responsibility leave, for an example, she is told that she's been making excuses about this child, right? And that is a woman that has actually been doing her work quite well, right? But also the same person, Mr. Speaker, this person is a comorbidity, right? She was forced to come to work when her sugar levels were at 16.2, right? Extremely dangerous. Yet this policy says it must be the first thing that is being done to make sure that people are not exposed to dangers, right? So Dashni Naika is one of the worst affected by this policy, because some people are allowed, yes, to work from home when they are able to go to work and do the work. I understand the question of saying her work does not allow her to fully be at home. But something can be done, Mr. Speaker, because my issue is, what if something happens to this woman and then she contracts, COVID-19, and when that happens, she passes on? The only thing we are going to say, we are sorry, we send flowers, we appoint somebody else, right? So I want to say through you, Mr. Speaker, the MM must immediately look into the question into the case of this woman who is being brutally victimized by this man who does not seem to like her guts. And in such a policy, these things must be looked into, Mr. Speaker, so that people do not fall victims of people that that doesn't like them. So we do not make provision for that. Yes, Speaker.
We are in an open meeting, Councillor Langa, and I don't think the purpose of this item is to raise or popularize the reference to any single or specific official. I don't know how else to put it. We can probably all tell stories about officials, but I beg to differ with you in this instance, and I would request that we do not refer to specific cases. We are here to address the matter of the policy.
But where do you differ with me now, Mr. Speaker, in what I'm saying as it being factual or not, or the mentioning of the name?
We are not
Point of
discussing
order,
individuals.
Speaker.
We are not discussing.
I'm still talking to the Speaker now. Yes, Speaker?
One moment, please, Ms. Councillor Langa. Chief Whip.
Speaker, just on a point of order, I would like to know what the relevance of discussing the individual case is. We are here to discuss. Sorry, it's very noisy, Speaker. I can't hear myself speaking. I was raising on a point of order, and I was just wanting to know what an individual case has to do with a policy regarding the whole municipality. And I strongly advise that individual cases be taken up individually with the MM, as we cannot expose individuals in a council meeting where we are now discussing the total policy for the entire municipality. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Chief Whip. Councillor Langa.
Mr. Speaker, that is why I said through you, I'm requesting for that to be looked into. And I don't know what the point of order is. This woman is just very, very happy to listen to herself. I don't have time for that. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm saying this policy opens up people to be victimized. Hence, I'm making this example. So we have not actually made it possible, in fact, impossible for people to be victimized, because people are being victimized. We know that it's been happening for quite some time, and it's getting even worse now, Mr. Speaker, with this policy. So,
thank you. Noted. Next to speak is Councillor van die Kerk. You have 1 minute.
Thank you, Speaker. I'm covered.
Thank you. Last to speak on this item is Councillor Lowe. You have 1 minute.
Speaker, thank you. Just a matter, I second the recommendation from my friend of the DA, Mr. Simela. No problem. Second the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. We move to item 14.11, George Municipal COVID-19 Policy. The first to speak there is Councillor Kritzinger. You have 3 minutes, Councillor.
Thank you, Speaker.
Alderman My apologies, Alderman Kritzinger.
Thank you, Speaker. The Labour Relations 479 COVID occupational health and safety measures in the workplace, that is Annexure B on page 399. You can read up on it. Place a number of legal obligations on employers in dealing with COVID-19. The policy serves as a guideline.
It's COVID-19, Mr. Speaker, not COVID-99, eh?
Councillor Langa, I think you should open your ears, please. Thank you very much. The policy serves as a guideline for management on how to deal with COVID and in the workplace until vaccine or treatment is available to all staff members and to the public. The policy will remain in place and will be amended from time to time as and when needed under the auspices of the local labour forum. I'm of the opinion that an assertive effort should be made to train and to brief all management staff in the organisation regarding the content of this policy. Negligence on the side of the employer can have serious implications for the organisation if the policy is not implemented. I want to also ask the council to adopt this policy, and this is for the better of our staff and for everybody else. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alderman Kritzinger. Next to speak is Councillor Nosana. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Speaker. Good morning or afternoon or whatever it is. Speaker, I think firstly I'd like to ask you, to send officials to wherever the councillors are to take breathalyzers. I think we are drinking in these meetings. Secondly, Speaker,
I take exception to that, Speaker.
Order, please.
If you are not drinking, Kalok, I'm talking about those ones that are drinking. Yeah.
Order. Order, please. Please. Can we please have order?
I'm on the
It's like Donald
Speakers,
Trump.
Speaker, as a matter of interest.
Order.
Speaker, as a matter of interest, may I say that the people that had the most to say last night with the budget speech when the liquor was increased was the ANC members.
Thank you,
sir.
Councillors, I'm not going to tolerate
all
any
the
more
Donald
interjections. Please, order, please, Alderman Gierke. I'm not going to allow any more interjections by anybody. So please, Councillor Nosana, please stick to the item at hand.
Yeah,
Thank
did you hear my voice there, Speaker? Did you hear my voice?
Councillor Nosana, please proceed. Councillor Nosana, do you wish to proceed? Councillor Nosana?
I'm proceeding.
Thank you.
But I'm not a presiding. As the ANC would love to suggest that this policy be taken to a workshop with all the councillors. I know someone is going to say it was already workshopped. It's not true. So we would like this to go to a workshop. We don't want to have inputs. We want a workshop with the whole council. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Councillor Nosana. Last to speak on this item is Councillor van Niekerk. You have 1 minute.
I'm covered, Speaker.
Thank you. I said last, that was last but least. And the next is to speak is Councillor Fry. You have 1 minute.
Dankie Speaker vir die geleentheid. Speaker, ek sekondeer die voorstel gemaak deur my colleague, Elder Lady Kritzener.
Thank you, Councillor Fry. We move to item 14.12, alleged breach of conduct for councillors. Councillor T. Fortuin. First to speak there is the Mayor. Mayor, you have 2 minutes.
Thanks, Speaker. I think this item, as colleagues will note, is dealt with on page 415, and this matter was then referred by the Speaker to an independent firm of attorneys, and we will note on page 422 that there's a recommendation from them that Councillor Fortuin acted in breach of the rules of order, specifically in relation to Rule 216, which in that she failed to be silent after the Speaker requested her to do so. 2728 in being grossly disrespectful. Rule 2729 that remarks were unfounded and unjustified. Rule 27.210 obstructed the continuation of the business of the meeting. Rule 27.212 declined the request by the Speaker to withdraw her remarks. And then the final recommendation being that disciplinary action against Councillor Fortuin's action should seriously be considered. Now, so that leads us to the recommendation that we take note of the breach in A, and B, that Council therefore undertakes an investigation into the alleged breach, and as such then to investigate and to make a finding, and that a special committee be appointed comprising Alderman Kritzinger and Petrus from the DA's side, and then that the opposition then recommend a third committee member. So I propose, and I will send through the amendment with the names that I have, and I trust then that the third name will be added in the course of this debate. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Mayor. Next to speak on the item is Councillor Jantjies Gushman. I see on the speakers list it's indicated as Gushman Jantjies. I don't know which way around now it is, but I have it as Councillor Jantjies Gushman.
That's why again Osana said there must be a breathalyzer here, because I send it through as I know my surname. So Speaker, thank you. First and foremost, Speaker, you know most that the rules of order that you are using are outdated, and those rules of order must come for a workshop and be amended to suit us all. Speaker, they are made to stifle debate, especially in the opposition side. When we speak, Speaker, you sought to silence us and use the rules of order to deal with us. Speaker, you clustered 2 events of 2 council meetings into one, because these incidents that you're charging Councillor Fortain of happened in 2 council meetings. Lawfully, you can't cluster two incidents into one when you charge someone. That one also is out, Speaker. Finally, Speaker, the councillors have indemnity in council chambers. You cannot charge us for things that were said in council chambers. The indemnity, Speaker, means security against or exemption from legal liability for one's action. Guest Speaker, most you know the book of law, or your lawyer or legal advisor also know. He can advise us here, where does this thing stand? Yeah, because I don't know, but I know we have indemnity in the council chambers. And we don't support this nonsense of this letter that is written to Oyoyo. And also, Speaker, you appointed a legal company. Where was that decision taken that a legal company must represent council against Councillor Fortain? And how much did that cost? Or how much will that cost the council? Thank you, Speaker. Oh, sorry, Speaker. Sorry. Last point. You are dealing differently with the opposition than when you are dealing with your own people. Because you have a case of Councillor Noble here that you're not dealing with for so long. We are still here. You have not charged electricity theft, and that Councillor Noble owed the municipality for more than 3 months, and the councillor must not owe the municipality for more than 3 months. But there is Councillor Noble still there. No action taken against Mrs. MM. I hope, Mrs. MM, I hope under your leadership, these things will be looked at. Thank you.
Please stick to the item. Thank you. Maya, can you please mute your microphone? Maya, can you please mute your microphone? Do you wish to speak? Thank you. Next to speak on this item is Councillor Giereke. You have 4 minutes. Alderman Giereke, my apologies. Alderman Giereke.
Speaker, thank you. Can I just ask you before you activate my time? I'm not sure, I'm not clear on this item. Are you charging Councillor Fortain in respect of only Mr. Wallace, or are you also charging Councillor Fortain in respect of your incident? Before I proceed, please.
It's in respect of my incident. If Councillor Wallace's is included, there's no detail as far as I know.
Okay, thank you. Can I now start, Speaker? If this is in respect of your incident, then obviously you cannot, as the Speaker, adjudicate on your own matter in this meeting today. The merits are here. Yes, we have the report, but you may have not adjudicated as the Speaker because you are conflicted and implicated, or conflicted for that matter, in this incident. Most probably other people would have said something else, but because of your presence, they are holding back, and your presence may be intimidating. That's the first point. You may not have adjudicated on your own matter. You cannot be the jury and the judge. It is a well-known worldwide legal principle, and it's applicable to all of these cases. That's number one. Number two is and I say this respectfully, you are bringing this report and acting disingenuous in the sense that you are not taking counsel in your confidence and explain to counsel, describe to counsel the proceedings to this event. There was something else that happened. Councillor Fortuin was heavily provoked by something that you have allegedly or apparently said to her. That's the issue at hand here. Now, you are not explaining to counsel. You are dividing, separating that first incident from this incident. And in terms of my understanding, in terms of the National Archives Act, it's a contravention of that act that you may not separate or destroy information that pertains to a specific incident. It is also in contravention of the Code of Conduct for Councillors, Schedule 1, Section 2 of the Municipal Systems Act, that will state that when councillors act, they must act within the best interest, in all honesty and in transparency to this municipality. You are not giving us the facts here. You are only giving us one side of the story, and you are not giving us the actual facts that gave rise to this outburst, if you like. Yes, sir.
May I interrupt you?
Yes, sir.
Firstly, I'm not here to adjudicate this matter. That belongs on a different platform. And if, as you are suggesting, there are matters that have been left out of this matter, then obviously it's for the committee to investigate. We are not here to discuss the merits of this case, and that is why I don't have any problem in saying that I'm not adjudicating here. We are simply here to consider a recommendation, and the merits of this case will be discussed by others on a totally different platform before it comes back to council.
Mr. Speaker.
Where you will have all the opportunities.
You are using my time, and you are not fair, and this will count against you. The merits of this matter gave rise to the charges against Councillor Fortuin. And this is why I'm not discussing the matter. I'm discussing what is written in this report and is giving rise to the charges. If you have explained to this council what happened prior to this incident, then council's mind may have been applied differently. That's the point. That is the actual legal point to this. And so, you know, this is disingenuous. You should have taken counsel into consideration. You are adjudicating on this matter. You've just expressed an opinion also on this matter. So we say, what we are saying, we are not against discipline. We are all for discipline. We subscribe to the principles of discipline, but it must be fair, it must be honest, and it must be transparent. When this council makes a decision to charge somebody, it's serious when you charge somebody, and therefore we must have all the facts to our availability. We cannot act on a unilateral, arbitrarily, the description or statement that you bring to council. This is a unilateral statement. Just how you can talk afterwards. I'm busy here. And so,
when the speaker speaks and asks you to be quiet, then
again you are intimidating me.
Oh, I'm so sorry that you feel intimidated. I'm really sorry about that. I suggest to you that you read the recommendation. If you read the recommendation,
why don't you want to listen to what I'm saying? I'm doing a presentation that will have a direct effect.
You are discussing
it will have a direct effect on the charges, because you want us to charge Councillor Fortuin, but you're not giving us the true facts of this matter.
But my goodness,
you are not giving us the true facts. You yourself are in violation of the Code of Conduct.
Read the recommendation. It's not for you and me to decide what's happening here or discuss the merits. It's as simple as that.
If you bringing this item here, you're describing the merits to us. If you succeed in approving this here today, then you may take the stupid tactics against us all in this council. And this is basically what you're doing here.
Well, that's your opinion. That's your opinion, Alderman.
But that's what
Yes,
you do, Mr. Speaker.
You are
and you're
doing
not-
this. You will not succeed in this case. You are intimidating Councillor Fortuin. You are intimidating opposition councillors, and you're building up charges against us. Why don't you tell council why did Councillor Fortuin act like this? Because you started this fight with her.
Thank you, Alderman. Thank you. The next to speak on this is the EFF. Councillor Kama, you have a minute.
Okay, thank you, Speaker. Firstly, I couldn't understand the remarks of the Councillor Fontaine since they were wrote mainly in Afrikaans. I'm not sure it might happen. She said those things. She was angry or frustrated about the conduct of the Speaker on that day. We don't have to consider this alleged breach of conduct because in many instances, such things happen on this council. And there is no consistency on the actions of a speaker. So EFF does not support these recommendations. I thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kama. Next to speak is Councillor De Tooy. You have 1 minute.
Baie dankie, Speaker. Speaker, die ACDP ondersteun hierdie aanbeveling 100%. Dit is hoogtyd dat raadslede moet verantwoordelikheid gehou word vir hulle onbehoorlike, afbrekende taalgebruik. En die minagting van die speaker se stoel. Speaker, dis hoogtyd dat ons optree en soos ek sê, die ACDP ondersteun hierdie aanbeveling. Dankie.
Thank you, Councillor De Tooy. Ms. Paulus.
De Tooy, is jy nou deel van die DA? As jy nou deel van die DA, laat jy praat van ons.
Paulus, please translate. Thank you.
Uthi ke ACDP iyayixhasa le recommendation 100%. Uthi it is high time into yobana oceba okanye kulixesha uba oceba babanjwe responsible ngendlela abathetha ngayo nendlela abangamhloniphiyo ngayo uSpeaker apha kule council. Ngoko ke ACDP iyayixhasa le recommendation.
Thank you for that, Councillor. Sorry, Ms. Paulus. Last to speak on the item is Councillor Clark, Deputy Mayor. You have 1 minute.
Thank you, Speaker. I second the proposal.
Thank you. Councillors, before we move to the confidential part of the...
Speaker, ek is teenwoordig hier, my hand is op, moenie aangaan nie, moenie haastig wees nie. Goed te sien, ek het my gemeenskapsdiens afgehandel, ek is teenwoordig in die vergadering, gee my 'n kans, gee my demokratiese reg asseblief.
Welkom by die vergadering. Welcome to the meeting, Councillor Hector. I see that the
Speaker,
mayor's
on a
hand
point
is up.
of order, please. Speaker,
Alderman
on a point of
Kritzenberg.
order, please. Thank you very much. Thank you, Speaker, for acknowledging me. I just want to say that this item has been concluded. We have a
Speaker, my hand was op terwyl die item aan die gang was. My hand was op, Speaker, terwyl my hand aan die gang was. My hand was op, Speaker. Speaker, my hand was op. Ek traag op record. My hand was op.
order stel, wil jy weet wat is die point of order? Sê asseblief wat die point of
Speaker,
order
my
is.
hand was op terwyl die item aan die gang was.
Councillor Hector, please. Thank you.
Speaker,
This item has been dealt with. This item has been dealt with.
Speaker, ek sit op record dat ek die aanbeveling teenstaan. U moet ophou om so selektief te werk te gaan. My hand was op terwyl raadslid
Councillor
Gierko was.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Hector. Mayor, your hand is up.
Yes, thanks, Speaker. You will note that I read out what the amendment was. I would just like to read that once again, but we need a third councillor. I've indicated 2 of the names of the councillors that we're proposing onto that special committee, and therefore you need to obtain the name of a third councillor from the opposition to fulfill that.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I get an indication from the opposition who they would like to nominate as a member, a third member on this committee?
Speaker, as 'n lid van die oppositie.
Sorry, Councillor Hector, one moment. Was that Councillor Langa?
Speaker, from the side of the ANC, as you have heard, that we have said we do not support this because it's a witch hunt. Therefore, the ANC cannot see itself being part or forming part of such a witch hunt and an illegal process. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Noted, Councillor
Speaker.
Meyer.
Speaker, could I then propose Councillor van Niekerk as the third member?
Thank you, Councillor van Niekerk. Are you open to be nominated as a member of this committee?
Van Niekerk is not opposition. He's DA, part of the DA.
Order.
DA light.
Order, please. Councillor van Niekerk.
I will make myself available, Speaker.
Thank you, Councillor van Niekerk. Thank you, Meyer. The members of the committee then is Councillors Kritzinger, Petrus, and van Niekerk. Thank you. I see that Councillor Fortuyn's hand is up. Councillor Fortuyn, your hand is up.
Ja, my hand is up. As julle klaar met hierdie item?
We are done with this item.
Okay, nee, ek wil net vir jou sê ek is redelik in hierdie vergadering. Ek is capable genoeg om nou in hierdie vergadering te sit. Dankie.
Thank you, Councillor Fortuyn. We will then move to the confidential part of this meeting. Sorry, my apologies. Let me just get all my paperwork before we move there. We move to item 15, questions to council. There were no questions. Therefore, there were no replies to questions. There were no new questions. And then item 16, confidential list of deferred items. There were none. Item 17, confidential minutes of the previous meetings. We're now in the confidential part of the agenda. Can I get an indication that the YouTube has been switched off?
Mr. Speaker.
Alderman Gierke.
Sorry, I don't know this button for raising my hand is not working. Can we, before you go to the confidential part, you said at the end of the meeting, can we discuss my concern, please, that I've raised earlier on, my request?
Alderman, I'm going to ask that we do it at the end of the meeting, please, when we also consider the motion of exigency by Alderman Williams.
Yes, but what you're now doing, you switch over to the confidential part. The public doesn't have access to what we have to say now. They are disconnecting now, and they won't be able to connect again. This is what you're effectively doing now.
Alderman, my point stands. We will consider your contribution in this regard.
You can move your point. That's fine.
Thank you. Can I get an indication that all the YouTubers, so to speak, have been removed from the platform?
I see that the media is still with us, Mr. Speaker.
Can Ms. Spinar, I haven't welcomed you, but I welcome you, but at the same time, I'm asking you to say goodbye to us, please. Ms. Spinar, thank you. Can an indication be received that we are no longer on YouTube?
Chair, sorry, Speaker, that's a confirmation.